For 7 years, Liu Chen's world revolved around one person, the beautiful, unattainable Celeste Mo. He was her shadow, her confidant, her most devoted admirer. But to her, he was just a friend. After a final, brutal rejection shatters his world, Liu believes he's hit rock bottom. But sometimes, you have to lose what you thought you wanted to find what you truly need. A chance encounter in the rain. A shy, gentle girl with eyes that hold a universe of kindness. He thought he was saving her from the cruelty of the world, but perhaps, she's the one who will save him. What happens when a heart that has only known obsession finally learns what it means to truly connect? And what if the key to his future was hidden in a forgotten childhood promise? Hey look, another guy with a death wish is confessing to Celeste Mo. He's not bad looking though, kind of my type. Sure, but look who he's confessing to. She's gorgeous, and her family is loaded. Forget it, he doesn't stand a chance. I heard they've known each other for ages. He's been chasing her forever. What a simp. You chase, and in the end, you get nothing. Spring had just arrived in Hangzhou, the trees barely showing their first green buds, making the campus grounds feel stark and empty. Despite the lack of scenery, a circle of onlookers had formed on the track field, eager for the drama. Liu Chen listened to the whispers and jeers in silence. He knew exactly what he was to them, a source of entertainment. He stood there, clutching a bouquet of roses, watching the girl who was walking towards him. Celeste Mo, the undisputed most beautiful girl in the entire university, and the girl he had pursued for 7 years. He stood there, clutching a bouquet of roses, watching the girl who was walking towards him. Celeste Mo, the undisputed most beautiful girl in the entire university, and the girl he had pursued for 7 years. The air was still chilly, and a cool breeze brushed against his flushed cheeks. It rustled Celeste's waterfall of black hair and her milky white dress. It seemed the temperature had no effect on her. Her dress revealed the delicate lines of her collarbones and the smooth, pale skin of her neck. Her expression was placid, her lips pressed into a thin line. Her beautiful almond-shaped eyes were like pools of autumn water, impossible to look away from. Nature had been generous, bestowing upon her a face of exquisite, cool beauty that made every subtle movement captivating. Liu took a deep breath and stepped forward. He hadn't wanted to do this publicly. It felt too much like emotional blackmail. But he also couldn't let her brush him off again. Yes, a public confession puts the other person on the spot. But not you, Celeste. You wouldn't feel pressured. You're the untouchable moon, orbited by 1,000 stars. The line of guys you've rejected could probably stretch from one end of the campus to the other. And every failed confession, no matter who it came from, just became another stepping stone, raising your value even higher. Just as he expected, Celeste remained unfazed as the crowd grew, her expression unchanging. The only difference this time, because the suitor was him, was the slight furrow of her brow. How long have you been chasing me? She asked, her cool voice carried to his ears on the wind. 7 years, as of today. She had spoken first, and Liu, in a silent understanding, didn't launch into a grand declaration of love. This was, after all, his second confession. The first time had been in high school. She'd said they should focus on their studies. Liu had understood. And then he'd given up his dreams of attending university in other cities just to follow her here. He'd known, deep down, for a while now. When he realized their relationship hadn't changed at all since starting college, the answer was already there. If two people truly liked each other, things moved quickly. If a single man and woman knew each other for years with no progress, it was a clear sign it was never going to happen. Besides, this wasn't just a 7-year pursuit. They had known each other since they were small children. They were true childhood friends. So now, he was just looking for closure. An end to 7 years of groveling like a dog, of feeling ecstatic over the smallest crumb of attention. To be worthy of you, I worked hard for 7 years. 7 years is a long time, Miss Mo. I get tired too. It's time to finally define this bizarre relationship of ours, isn't it? Finally, Celeste's lips parted, pulling Liu from his thoughts. Yes, 7 years, Liu. Her expression was indifferent, her tone icy. After all this time, haven't you figured it out? I don't like you. Let's just stay friends. If you bring this up again, we can't even be that. Liu looked up at the overcast sky, feeling surprisingly calm. Friends? So I can stand by and watch you date other guys? Watch you get married and have kids someday? Celeste, I like you, but I'm not that pathetic. Celeste said nothing more. She swept her cold gaze over the crowd one last time, then turned and walked away, leaving him with only the sight of her graceful, yet utterly heartless, back. Celeste Mo, I love you. I've loved you for 7 whole years. Liu shouted at her retreating figure, ignoring the stares of everyone around him. As a fresh wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd, he added with a self-mocking smile, but not anymore. As a fresh wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. Then he turned his back on the crowd and walked away, a solitary, desolate figure. Like a gambler who had bet everything and lost it all. Suddenly, Liu realized that alongside the grief, he felt a strange sense of relief, as if a great weight had been lifted. The words, "I don't like you," were simple, but they represented a chasm far wider than differences in wealth, looks, or personality. You could work on those other things, but you couldn't fix someone not liking you. Lost in these thoughts, Leo managed a weak smile for his friend, Jake Jeong, who was waiting for him. Jake was his best friend, his brother in arms. He had this oddly old-school, dependable vibe, always bringing back breakfast for his dorm mates after his morning run, which had earned him the nickname Boss. Better things are coming, man. Jake slung an arm around his shoulders. We didn't even plan a celebration, you know? Because whether you succeeded or failed, it was never about you not being good enough for her. It's her who isn't good enough for you. Leo glanced at a nearby trash can, noticing several discarded party poppers. He smiled faintly. Let's give these roses to some of the kids on the street later. It'd be a waste to throw them out. Little kids will love them. Leo glanced at a nearby trash can, noticing several discarded party poppers. Let's give these roses to some of the kids on the street later. It'd be a waste to throw them out. Little kids will love them. See? That's what I'm talking about. With a personality like yours, who wouldn't be happy with you? Jake said with a look of disgust aimed at the memory of Celeste. Not to mention you're not lacking in any other department. What's not good enough about you? Does she really think being pretty solves all her problems? How many times did you drop everything to help her out of a jam? You were the one who solved everything. If I were a girl, I'd be dragging you to the courthouse to get married myself. All right. I was actually touched until you said that last part, Leo said, scanning the area. Where are the other two? Ryan and Harry had something come up. We'll make them pay for drinks later. Come on, let's get you out of here. Jake pulled Leo towards the campus gate. Ryan and Harry had something come up. Jake pulled Leo towards the campus gate. The sky was darkening, and the street lights flickered on one by one. Vendors had already set up their stalls by the gate, their modified food carts decorated with strings of bright light bulbs, attracting swarms of tiny insects. The sizzling aroma of hot oil and spices filled the air, a familiar scent to the countless university students who preferred these street snacks to the cafeteria food. Seeing Leo's desolate expression, Jake's voice softened. You've known each other for so long. If she really liked you, she would have said yes ages ago. Stop torturing yourself, Leo. You're too smart for this. Why are you so stubborn about this one thing? Seeing Leo's desolate expression, Leo stared blankly into the distance, a complex smile playing on his lips. I'm done chasing her. The three words seemed to drain all the strength from his body, a declaration of release filled with endless sorrow. For real this time? I've half-killed myself to reach this epiphany. If I ever look back, I deserve to be struck down. Jake let out a gusha, a bitter but understanding laugh. A person only has so many 7-year spans in their life. Exactly, said Ryan Lee and Harry Zhang in unison. The other two roommates had finally arrived, and after chiming in, they tactfully avoided the subject of the day's events. Leo didn't say anything more. Just then, a girl carrying a stack of flyers stopped in front of him, timidly holding one out. Carrying a stack of flyers. Seeing that he was staring off into space and hadn't noticed her, she spoke again, her voice soft. Excuse me. Seeing that he was staring off into space and hadn't noticed her. Her voice was tiny, quickly swallowed by the noise of the bustling street food alley. Leo finally snapped out of his daze. He blankly took the flyer and remained still as a statue, his thoughts adrift. He wasn't even sure what he was thinking about, his gaze unfocused. He blankly took the flyer. Thank you, the girl said with a polite bow, even though Leo hadn't responded. She then moved on to the next person, repeating the same quiet routine. So earnest. If it were me, I'd just dump all those flyers in the trash, Jake remarked, a cigarette dangling from his lips. I wonder if someone's supervising her. A cigarette dangling from his lips. Hard to say. Just as Leo spoke, his phone rang with its familiar Canon D ringtone. He glanced at the screen, and his heart gave a little jolt when he saw the caller's name. His phone rang with its familiar Canon D ringtone. It was Celeste. She probably wanted him to help her with something again. It certainly wasn't a change of heart, a call to accept his confession. She probably thinks I'll just go back to being her friend. Leo knew that if he answered, he could go back to how things were, orbiting around Celeste, always watching her radiant back from a distance. Today would become nothing, but he really didn't want to answer. He was just so tired. Hey, that girl with the low ponytail, the one who just gave you the flyer. What do you rate her? Jake lit his cigarette, continuing his own conversation. Her clothes are so plain and her bangs are too long. Her figure's okay though. I'd give her a 5 out of 10. That girl with the low ponytail, the one who just gave you the flyer. What do you rate her? Leo shot him a weary look. You're so bored. He then silently declined the call and found his eyes drifting back to the busy figure of the girl. She looked young, maybe a little under 5'7", wearing a simple white t-shirt and jeans. Though her outfit was unremarkable, it couldn't hide her delicate curves. Her bangs were so long, and she kept her head down as she walked. Jake's 5 points must have been entirely for her figure. As she moved through the crowd, her ponytail swung back and forth, neat and ordinary. Seeing how diligently she worked, never slacking off, he guessed she was a university student working a part-time job. She seemed completely out of place among the other girls her age, who were dressed up, laughing and joking around. Seeing Leo hang up, Jake breathed a sigh of relief. His tone lightened, as if his previous comments were just a ploy to distract him. What's wrong with rating someone? If someone gave me a 2, I'd just smile and say thanks. I'm not a hypocrite. Besides, I just helped an old lady cross the street yesterday. I'm a total good guy, okay? Leo couldn't be bothered to argue. He just pressed the side button on his phone, making the screen go dark. It was such a simple action, but at that moment, it felt like it took a monumental effort. This is the first time I've ever not answered your call, even though you've ignored mine countless times. Sometimes for no other reason than you were in a bad mood. How dare he not answer? Celeste complained, frowning and chewing on her lower lip. Her slender fingers tapped restlessly on her phone screen. I've rejected him before. Why is he not picking up this time? What's wrong with being friends? Weren't things fine the way they were? Her slender fingers tapped restlessly on her phone screen. Her roommate and best friend, Chloe Liu, watched her with a helpless expression. For a moment, she was lost in thought, just looking at her. Celeste was so beautiful that even her tantrums were somehow captivating. It made Chloe almost understand why ancient kings would start wars for a beautiful woman. Even when I had that huge fight with my parents, he answered my call at 2 in the morning. I'm going to go find him and ask him what's wrong. With that, Celeste threw off her lace-trimmed nightgown and started changing, not even bothering with her messy hair as she made for the door. Threw off her lace-trimmed nightgown. Just as she grabbed the doorknob, and her roommates thought she'd finally come to her senses, she turned around, walked back, and sat on her bed with a pout. Her roommates thought she'd finally come to her senses. I'm not going to be the one to chase after someone who won't even answer my call. Although Chloe had been trying to reason with her ever since she got back to the dorm, she sat down next to her again, placing a hand on her shoulder. Celeste, I'm going to try one last time, okay? If you like him, it's not too late to take it back. Leo has pursued you for 7 years. Just in the time I've known you, he'd bring you a meal anytime you called, no matter how early or late. My own boyfriend doesn't make me hot ginger tea when I have cramps, but you always had it. Who else would learn to cook all your favorite dishes just for you? On paper, you're the class president, but he handles most of the work for you. And even if you've gotten used to it, not everyone gets a good morning and good night text every single day without fail. And Chloe paused, deciding against saying the last part. You can't live without him. As close as they were, there were still lines you didn't cross. She was Celeste's friend, not Leo's. What she'd already said was pushing it. But even if she didn't say it, she believed it with all her heart. When they were freshmen, Celeste's standoffish personality had caused misunderstandings and isolated her from the rest of the dorm. It was Leo who had painstakingly mediated everything, helping the other 3 girls see past it and build a friendship with her. That was how she and Celeste had become so close. When they were freshmen, Celeste's standoffish personality had caused misunderstandings and isolated her from the rest of the dorm. It was Leo who had painstakingly mediated everything, helping the other 3 girls see past it and build a friendship with her. Leo was pursuing Celeste, but he always kept a respectful distance from other girls. Once, because she was having a tantrum, he had stood in the pouring rain outside their dorm for an hour. The sight had made Chloe and the other 2 roommates sigh with a mixture of pity and admiration. For some reason, it seemed none of it had moved Celeste. Chloe looked at the pouting, beautiful girl in front of her, feeling a strange sense of urgency on her behalf. Leo has emotional intelligence, he's handsome, and while his family isn't as rich as yours, they're still well off. It's not like other girls aren't interested in him, but he's completely devoted to you. Being obsessed with you, Celeste, is practically one of his only flaws. Chloe looked at the pouting, beautiful girl in front of her. I don't like him. I never have, I don't now, and I never will. Celeste burrowed under her covers without even taking off her clothes, hiding herself completely, with only strands of her long hair visible. Burrowed under her covers. Even though she had no clear definition of what, even felt like, her pride made her deny it instinctively. Chloe exchanged a look with the other 2 roommates. Their friend was both lovable and infuriating. Celeste was actually very good to the people close to her. She was generous and had even bought Leo the latest laptop for his birthday. But she didn't understand what Leo truly wanted. She had never once reciprocated his feelings, stringing him along and tormenting him for 7 long years. Had even bought Leo the latest laptop for his birthday. Celeste, you're going to regret this. Soon, you'll feel it. When the world you've been so sheltered from finally has to be faced on your own. He'll come back to me, just like he always does. I've known him for so long. I know him better than anyone. Meanwhile, on Leo's side, Jake had moved on from comforting him and was now on a roll. Stop adding to your sunk costs, man. Your youth is slipping away. Are you going to hang yourself from one tree and ignore all the other wonderful girls out there? Jake said, clapping him on the shoulder. Is that your excuse for being a player? Leo frowned. I just want to give them all equal love. Give me a break. Just as Leo was about to retort, a furious shout cut through the air nearby. It was piercingly loud. Are you blind? Leo turned his head to see a guy angrily pointing and shouting at the girl who had been handing out flyers. The girl flinched, and some of the hot soup from the bowl in the man's hand splashed onto her arm. Strangely, even then, she didn't make a sound, just kept her head bowed low. With every word the man yelled, the girl trembled, her eyes clearly welling up with tears that she fought to keep from falling. What's wrong with this guy? He's the one who was too drunk to walk straight and bumped into her, and now he's blaming her, Jake muttered, his eyes narrowing. Leo nodded, and without a second thought, walked over and gently pulled the girl behind him. She didn't even cause you to drop it. Yelling at her like this is out of line, Leo said, sizing up the man who was clearly drunk. He looked to be about their age, with two friends flanking him, and not one of them was willing to speak the truth. Instead, they were all glaring at him with ill intent. Great, birds of a feather flock together, huh? A crowd of onlookers had already gathered, some even holding up their phones, ready to record the spectacle. Leo suddenly slung an arm around the drunk guy's shoulder. There's a security camera right there, buddy, he said, pointing to a corner. And all these people are recording. He then gestured toward his own group of friends who had moved closer. He lowered his voice. You go to this university too, right? We're from the law school. And those two are on the student council. See that guy smoking over there? Don't let his laid-back look fool you. His dad is the police chief. You really don't want to get into a fight with him. He's got a screw loose, doesn't know his own strength. And what if? I'm just saying, what if you end up getting a lecture from the cops inside, while he's in his dad's office playing video games? So let's not mess with them, okay? The guy was speechless, staring at Leo with wide eyes. Aren't you afraid they'll lose their student council positions? Leo blinked, feigning innocence. Why would they? He just failed to stop us from fighting. He wouldn't actually get involved. But I'm sure we're all civilized people here. We'll probably see each other around campus. Maybe we can even help each other out someday. How about we introduce ourselves? The guy looked at Leo's calm, unsmiling face and swallowed nervously. Leo had offered both a threat and an out, all wrapped in a polite package. The guy was completely bluffed. Since he was being given a way out, he might as well take it. He gave a jerky nod. Okay. All of his earlier aggression had vanished. Just as Leo had thought, people who fly off the handle without thinking are usually the first to back down. They have the guts to bully a quiet girl, but they wouldn't dare to cross someone who might actually fight back. The little incident ended as strangely as it began. As soon as Leo returned to his friends, they started chattering again, as if this was just a normal thing for him to do. If Celeste had been here to see that, she would have fallen for you for sure. Are you here to drink with me, or to pour salt on my wounds? Just then, the girl quietly approached them again, stammering out another thank you. Thank you. Leo looked at her arm, which was already red. You should run that under cold water right away, he advised gently. And then get some ointment from a pharmacy. That looks like a nasty burn. Next time something like this happens, you have to speak up for yourself. Don't just stand there and take it like a punching bag. You don't owe them anything. The girl nodded forcefully and then left, leaving behind a single teardrop on the ground. Leo shrugged at his friends. Come on, let's go eat. After a few drinks, the guys were in high spirits, and Leo found himself dragged along until 10 at night. The moment they stepped outside, a blast of cold air hit him, making him shiver. Damn this weather, he muttered. The nearby mall was closed, but the streets were still alive with colorful lights. The dorms are probably about to close. Want to go to an internet cafe? Harry Zheng asked, rubbing his hands together. Jake and Ryan Lee were both fine with the idea, and all three of them looked at Leo. You guys go ahead. I'm going to head home, Leo said softly. The cold wind on his alcohol-warmed cheeks was making him feel more and more sober, and with sobriety came a deepening sense of loss. Jake patted his shoulder. Get some sleep. Watching Leo's lonely figure walk away, his friends all felt a pang of sympathy. Jake lit a cigarette, but then noticed some children playing nearby and quickly stubbed it out. Let him have some time to himself. Damn it, Harry suddenly swore. Why can't Celeste see how great Leo is? Jake listened in silence, the unlit cigarette still between his lips as he glanced at a new message on his phone screen. Celeste, where's Leo? He looked up, but Leo was already gone. He typed a quick reply with his thumb on the glowing screen. You should have asked earlier. It's too late now. Some other girl will discover just how good he is. Then he deleted her as a contact. Leo didn't go straight home. He wandered aimlessly, eventually finding himself in a nearby park. He walked past the few scattered streetlights until he was in near total darkness, able to see only by the faint glow from the city beyond. The park was deserted at this hour. He sat down on a swing and let out a long sigh. He and Celeste used to play here all the time as kids. Even now, he could see ghosts of their memories everywhere. Leo's lips curved into a bitter, self-mocking smile. Back then, when they played house, they had talked about getting married when they grew up. How ridiculous. He was the only one who had taken it seriously. He tilted his head back, his gaze drifting into the distance. Suddenly, on a bench by the street, he saw a figure that was both strange and familiar. It was the girl who had been handing out flyers at the campus gate. He might not have been sure if it were anyone else, but her distinctive, eye-obscuring bangs were now a kind of trademark. He recognized her at once. The girl was sitting on a bench under a streetlight, quietly wiping away tears by herself. The dim light cast long shadows, making her solitary figure seem even more desolate, as if she'd been abandoned in a corner of the world. She seemed out of sync with everything around her. After a moment's hesitation, Leo walked over and stood in front of her. "It's late. Why aren't you home?" The sudden voice made the girl jump. When she saw it was Leo, she seemed to relax a little, quickly lowering her head to wipe away her tears. After a moment of silence, she sniffled and spoke in a low voice. "When I'm feeling down, I sometimes come here for a bit." Leo thought back to what had happened earlier that evening. "Did you put any medicine on that burn?" he asked. "No. Wait here a second." A few minutes later, he was back. "What's wrong with you?" "You have to treat a burn. It can get serious," Leo said, panting slightly. The evening wind rustled the loose sleeves of the girl's t-shirt and her hair. Sitting there, she looked like the picture of a meek pushover. Leo squatted down in front of her, holding out the tube of ointment he'd bought, gesturing for her to apply it. But the girl just held out her arm. And then, she didn't move. She doesn't talk back when she's yelled at, and now she only moves when she's told to. Is she always this clueless? Leo thought to himself. He sighed and began to apply the ointment for her. Even in the dim light of the street lamp, he could see that her arm was very pale and delicate, the kind of skin that looked like it would bruise at the slightest pressure. The burned area was an angry red patch, already starting to peel. "Did you even run it under cold water?" he asked, his head still down. I did." The girl's voice was small and timid, but very pleasant to the ear. Even though Leo felt his tone was gentle, the girl seemed to shrink as if being scolded, her head bowed low. "Then why didn't you go to a pharmacy?" "It's so late. I hadn't finished my work, and medicine costs a lot of money." Leo was at a loss for words. He just silently finished applying the cream. "There, that should do it. There's plenty left, so make sure you apply it regularly." When Leo finished his instructions and looked up, he found the girl staring at him, her eyes wide. Another sudden gust of wind blew her long bangs aside, revealing eyes as clear and bright as gemstones. And with them, her pure, delicate face came into full view. "Jake, are you blind?" "A 5. This is 100. In that moment, the distant noise of traffic and car horns faded away into nothing. The world became unnervingly quiet. It was as if all the chaos of the world had ceased to exist, and in that moment, there was only the two of them. In the pure, gentle depths of her eyes, he saw the reflection of the passing headlights, the towering buildings and countless city lights behind him, the brilliant stars in the sky, and finally, he saw himself. "Please, stop looking at me, okay?" After a long moment, the girl, finally snapping out of her daze, looked down in embarrassment, a fresh mist of tears clouding her vision. Leo smiled faintly. She had every right to tell him to stop staring, but she had phrased it as a timid request. What a silly girl. Leo quickly stood up and checked the missed calls on his phone. The Hangzhou night was cold, and it sent a chill through his heart. Just one phone call. No messages. "Celeste, do you really think I'll always be the one to come back to you? In your eyes, am I really that pathetic?" He tilted his head back for a moment. Then, once he'd composed himself, he swiped left on the missed call notification and deleted it. He glanced at the time. It was already past 11. "I'll walk you home," he said gently. When the girl remained silent, her head still bowed, he added, "I live nearby. The university dorms are already locked for the night anyway." Only then did she give a small nod, and they began to walk together down the street. "My name is Leo Chen," he said, turning to look at her. "And you are?" "I'm Lily Liang." Lily kept her eyes on Leo's shadow on the pavement as she spoke. It was a way to watch him without looking directly at him, which made her feel safe. He probably won't notice I'm looking at him, right? "Thank you for buying me the medicine. I'll pay you back," she said, her voice as quiet as a mosquito's buzz. She took out her phone from her pocket and pressed the power button a couple of times. Her words warmed a small, cold part of Leo's heart. So this is what it feels like. Someone saying thank you for such a small thing. He couldn't remember ever hearing a word of thanks from Celeste. Not a single one. As he was lost in thought, he saw Lily's mouth fall slightly open, her eyes blinking as she stared at her phone. "My phone's dead," she said, looking mortified. Perhaps afraid he wouldn't believe her, her hand trembled as she held the phone out to him, pressing the button again to prove it. Sure enough, the screen remained black. Even though she couldn't afford to buy medicine for herself, she still couldn't stand the idea of being indebted to someone else. She looked completely lost. Leo couldn't help but smile. "You're a little bit goofy, aren't you?" "It's fine, the ointment was cheap. Less than a couple of dollars." The girl didn't dare say anything else, just pursed her lips and looked down at the ground again. "I'm actually very smart," she said seriously after a moment. Okay. The girl seemed to have a very quiet personality, and Leo wasn't in the mood to talk either, so they walked on in comfortable silence. With nothing else to do, Leo found himself studying the shy girl beside him. The moment their eyes had met earlier had been breathtaking, and he was curious why such a beautiful girl would try so hard to hide herself. "Why do you always keep your head down?" he asked, stifling a yawn. "You should be more confident. In my entire life, I've only ever met one other person as beautiful as you. If you were more confident, you might still run into idiots like that guy from earlier, but there'd be a much better chance of other people stepping in to help." After a long pause, Lily finally spoke. "This way, it's harder for people to notice me." Leo understood. From what she'd said about the medicine being expensive, he'd already guessed her family wasn't well off. For a girl with her personality, being too beautiful could be more of a burden than a blessing. That kind of trait only became an asset when it was paired with something like Celeste's family background. They walked for a long time, but for some reason, the time seemed to fly by for Leo. Lily finally led him to a bus stop. "I'll wait for the bus here," she said softly, clutching her bus pass. "It's a short walk home from my stop." Leo checked the time. They had walked for over 10 minutes without much delay. "You do this every day?" he asked, feeling exhausted just thinking about it. "Renting a place further out is cheaper. Then why don't you find a job closer to home? Even after accounting for the bus fare, I can make a dozen or so dollars more per day over here." Leo nodded silently. It seemed that whatever he asked, the girl would answer honestly. It was a strange, refreshing feeling. "That sounds tough." Just as he said it, the bus pulled up with a hiss of its pneumatic doors. "Thank." Lily turned to speak, but saw Leo slowly shaking his head. And so, under Leo's smiling gaze, she stepped onto the bus. It wasn't until she sat down that she realized what she had been about to say. But the bus was already moving. She had wanted to tell him to visit her at the shop sometime, so she could pay him back. She quickly stood up and anxiously tapped on the bus window. "The money for the medicine. I'll definitely pay you back." Seeing the girl get so flustered that her voice finally rose above a whisper, Leo found it incredibly endearing. He just smiled and waved. After the bus disappeared from view, Leo's smile instantly froze on his face. How is she going to pay me back? The bus traveled through the quiet night. Even after Leo's reflection had vanished from the window, Lily continued to stare at the bottom right corner of the glass, lost in thought. Like a foolish girl from an ancient story, trying to find a lost sword by marking the spot on her moving boat. Another cold breeze blew past, and the girl huddled deeper into her jacket. He was so warm. Without much thought, Leo hailed a cab to go home. He and Jake were both locals, so they could go home whenever they wanted, but they usually stayed in the dorm to maintain their brotherly bond. "To the Regent Gardens, please," he told the driver. "Wow, that's quite a ways out." "Yeah, I got a little lost." Staring out at the hazy night, Leo slowly pulled out his phone. He saw Celeste's name, which had been pinned to the top of his chat list for years. After a long hesitation, he unpinned it. Then he went into his messaging app and turned off the special notifications for her. He thought back to the old him. The one who sent good morning and good night texts every single day without fail. The one who desperately racked his brain for topics of conversation, his heart twisting every time she didn't reply. The one who carefully weighed every word, terrified of killing the conversation. The one whose only form of protest was to occasionally not reply instantly to her messages. "You were so pathetic, Leo." He scrolled through his chat history with Celeste, a bitter smile on his face. It was a sea of his own messages, with only a few sparse replies from her. Every page was a testament to his one-sided effort. As these memories flashed by, the city lights outside the window blurred in his vision. He was the one cutting ties, so why did he feel like the one who was hurt? He sniffled and sent a message to Jake. "Leo, boss, I'm heading home. You guys have fun." Jake, "All right, man. These two are a disaster. They've died like 20 times combined. Good thing you're not here." Leo smiled faintly at the message. Just as he was about to lock his screen, another message came in. "Jake, I half expected you to get fired up and go after that flyer girl." Smirk emoji. "Leo, shut up. I didn't even get her number. I'm sending a screenshot of this to your girlfriend." Jake, Sigma, duh. "No need for that. Get some good sleep. And when you wake up, remember you've still got us." Reading Jake's message, Leo felt a pang. You can reply instantly while you're in the middle of a game, but Celeste never could. She was never quick to reply to me. It was nearly 1 in the morning by the time Leo got to his apartment building. He looked up at his family's window and was relieved to see the lights were off. If I get home after my parents are asleep and leave before they wake up, it's like I was never here. With this thought, he tiptoed upstairs. Like a thief, he slipped into his room, unlocked a drawer, and took out everything related to Celeste, ready to throw it all away. Suddenly, his eyes fell on a simple bracelet made of a single wooden bead on a string. "I can't believe I still have this." He held it in his hand, hesitating for a moment, before placing it back in the now empty drawer. Everything else related to Celeste was gone. Having not felt warmth from another person in a long, long time, Lily Liang had a sweet dream. She dreamt of something from her past, a memory that had healed her and given her the strength to carry on. It was over a decade ago. A little girl was squatting in a sandbox at a park, silently watching other children climb up and slide down the slide. Her big, bright eyes were red, a sign she had just been crying. She was from a small village in the mountains, and she didn't dare join the other children. This feeling of inferiority seemed innate, because everything that was normal to them was new and foreign to her. She didn't even know what any of these things were. Just then, a little boy came and squatted down beside her. "Why are you sad?" The boy's voice was gentle. It was the first time anyone in this city had spoken to her that way. "Because my daddy has a sickness that can't be cured." As the little girl spoke, her eyes filled with tears again, looking utterly heartbroken. This was her first time in the big city she had always imagined. But it was different from her dreams. Hangzhou seemed to be filled only with the blare of car horns and the smell of hospital disinfectant. The city was crowded, yet the distance between people felt vast. It wasn't like her village, where people would help each other without a second thought. Here, she could only follow her worried mother around the hospital, asking where to register, where to pay. Seeing her mother's lost and helpless expression when she was ignored, the little girl wished with all her might that she were already grown up. The boy nodded silently. After a long pause, he pointed to a few children blowing bubbles in the distance. "When you're sad, it's best to distract yourself," he said softly. "Do you want to play with a bubble toy? You just press a button and lots of bubbles fly out. It's really fun. My family is poor. We can't afford that." The little girl lowered her head even further. "Good thing I have two," the little boy said excitedly, pressing the only bubble toy he had into her hands. His childish eyes showed no hint of falsehood or reluctance. "We can each have one." Seeing that the girl didn't seem to believe him, the boy added with a small laugh, "The other one is at home. It's even better than this one, so I don't want to bring it out and let them break it." "What's your name?" the little girl asked, rubbing her red eyes, finally convinced. Even though she knew she would likely never see him again in her life, she still wanted to ask. "I'm the Flame Dragon Hero," the boy declared, then took all the fruit candies from his pocket and gave them to her as well. "Anyway, when you feel sad, just eat a piece of candy. Here, this is for you." The girl took a wooden bracelet from her wrist and handed it to him. "My mommy said you should always give something in return. I can't just take your things." She had made it herself, so it was just a single wooden bead on a red string. The bead had been polished smooth, a task that required immense patience. It was hard to imagine a little girl had made it. "Thanks." Just as the boy was about to ask for her name, he was pulled away by another little girl dressed in designer clothes. In a state between sleep and wakefulness, Lily smiled faintly. She quietly pulled the blanket up over her weary mother sleeping beside her. The reason she had applied to this university was to come back to this city. "This city has millions of people. I don't expect to ever see you again, but at least we can look up at the same sky." The moment Chen woke up, he instinctively reached for his phone, his thumb hovering over the screen, ready to send a message. A split second before he hit send, he snapped to his senses and slapped himself across the face. Later that morning in class, Leo glanced at the three roommates beside him, who all had dark circles under their eyes just like he did. Then he looked down at the jurisprudence textbook on his desk. People always say that law school is a path of 1,000 cuts, but following a girl to the same university was one thing. Following her into a major like this was the real joke. That familiar, radiant figure was sitting a few rows ahead and to the left. Forcing himself to stop staring at the back of her head, another old habit he had to break. Class hadn't started yet, and students were still trickling in. As they entered, almost every single one of them would look first at Leo, then at Celeste Mo, as if they were hungry for the next chapter of the gossip. "Did you delete her contact info?" Jake leaned in and whispered. Leo shook his head, his expression grim. "Seriously? You're not done being her simp? Why haven't you deleted it?" Jake was clearly exasperated. Leo turned to him. "I need time to let go. 7 years is a long time. This isn't a novel where you can just flip a switch and be done. If I could be that decisive, it would just mean these past 7 years were all a lie, that I never had any real feelings." Ryan Lee, sitting next to them, chimed in. "That's true. They say it takes 21 days to form a habit. You can't expect Leo to just drop a 7-year habit overnight." Jake leaned closer to Leo again. "Let me set you up with someone. I might be lacking in many things, but a list of girls I know isn't one of them. I'll introduce you to a new one every day. I guarantee you won't see the same one twice. And I guarantee none of them will have a chest smaller than a D cup." Seeing Leo slump onto his desk uninterested, Jake pressed on. "If you think the girls I know are too wild, I can have my girlfriend set you up with one of her friends. How about that? I'm tired. Just let me rest. Maybe if I just rest, the person who's meant to love me will find me on her own." With that, Leo closed his eyes and drifted off to sleep. Just looking at Jake was painful. Jake had been his wingman in his pursuit of Celeste, but in a twist of fate, while he had failed to win over Celeste, Jake had successfully started dating her roommate, Chloe. Leo could afford to sleep, but Jake and the others couldn't. The last time they tried to copy Leo and sleep through class, Leo had aced all his exams while Jake had failed spectacularly. "People like you who don't seem to study but still get good grades are a cancer to the class." Jake cursed inwardly, forcing his heavy eyelids to stay open. Just as he was about to doze off himself, his phone vibrated, jolting him awake. It was a message from a freshman girl. "Hey Jake, do you know Chen? I'm helping a friend look for him. I'm right outside your classroom. Could you ask him to come out for a second? Jake stared at the message, stunned. Did Leo's words just come true? He quickly shook Leo awake. He didn't care if it was true love or not. Anything that could distract his best friend was a good thing. Leo groggily made his way out of the classroom. A girl standing outside immediately hurried over to him. Instantly, every eye in the classroom swiveled to Leo, who was leaning against the doorframe. It was perfectly normal for someone to confess their feelings to Leo. He was handsome and had a good personality. Even though he wasn't the class president or on the student council, he was well-liked. Before, he had actively kept his distance from other girls because he was pursuing Celeste. Now that she had publicly rejected him, it was no surprise that another girl would see her chance and make a move the very next day. Many of the students kept glancing back and forth between Leo and Celeste, watching for her reaction. Leo was, after all, her most loyal suitor, a fact everyone in their class was well aware of. Celeste, however, pointedly ignored the scene, staring out the window with a little huff. "Hello," Leo said, looking at the cheerful-looking girl with short hair, a bit confused. She seemed a little starstruck when she saw him, her eyes blinking as she stared at his face. "Hi, I'm a friend of Lily Liang's. She's working part-time right now and can't get away, so she asked me to come find you and see when you're free. She wants to thank you in person." "She goes to this university too?" Leo was shocked, suddenly wide awake. "Yep, we're both in the accounting program." "Oh, I see. I'm free after this class." "Okay, I'll tell her to wait for you at the library entrance then." For some reason, Leo thought the girl was grinning mischievously. It was the same kind of smile his mom got when she watched the main characters of a drama finally get together. "You better remember my name. It's Mia Lin," the girl called out cheerfully as she bounced away. Leo, who had barely slept, sat back down, all sleepiness gone. What a coincidence. But then why doesn't she live in the dorms? "All right, stop craning your neck. She's gone," Chloe said, rolling her eyes at Celeste. "It wasn't a confession. What's it to me?" Celeste pouted and slumped onto her desk as well. After class, just as Leo was about to leave, his advisor called out to him. She was a recent graduate herself, but had already adopted the stern demeanor of a high school homeroom teacher. She wasn't easy to get along with, but because Leo was efficient, she was usually lenient with his requests for time off. The price was being occasionally summoned for manual labor. "Leo, come help me organize these rosters." "Is it urgent? Can I do it later?" Leo asked, feeling a bit exasperated. "It's very urgent. If you do it later, someone else will be approving your leave requests from now on, and you all can get ready to welcome a new advisor." "I'll help him," Jake quickly volunteered, trying to save his friend. "Not you. You know perfectly well how unreliable you are." Jake saw that his other two roommates also had things to do, so he could only watch helplessly as Leo was taken away. At first, Leo saw a thin stack of papers and felt a sense of relief. He thought if he worked quickly, he could still make it. But after finishing that stack, he was informed that the towering pile next to it was also his. He felt like dying. Half an hour later, it suddenly started pouring rain outside. Leo quickly closed the window before the cold wind could blow in. The April weather was more fickle than a girl's mood. One day it could be sunny and 80 degrees, the next it could be near freezing. But the rain brought Leo an odd sense of calm. It's been so long, and it's raining this hard. Lily probably wouldn't still be waiting for me, right? He'd much rather be the one stood up than have someone wait for him endlessly. After another half an hour, Leo finally finished the mountain of paperwork. The rain outside had, at some point, lessened to a drizzle. "Thanks for your hard work, Leo. I can handle the rest. I have an umbrella here. You can take it." Leo only heard half the sentence before he bolted out the door, sprinting towards the library. Even though he thought no normal person would wait for over an hour, he felt a pull, a need to go and check. The campus paths were dotted with couples strolling under shared umbrellas, unhurried, as if the light rain only added to the romantic atmosphere. And then there was him, a lone figure sprinting through the rain, dodging people and splashing through puddles, a stark contrast to the serene scene. Thanks to years of exercise, mostly from running around to bring food to Celeste, Leo was in decent shape. A shame his well-defined abs had only ever been seen by his roommates. When he reached the library entrance, he saw her, a lone girl standing timidly near the doors. She seemed cold, periodically shrinking into her jacket. Yet she stood in a prominent spot, right at the front. Whenever a gust of wind blew rain onto her, she would just endure it. Every time someone passed, she would shyly step aside, then move back to her conspicuous spot. Even with her head down, Leo recognized her instantly. He quickly walked over to her. She was wearing the same jeans as last night, but today she had on a light green jacket. It seemed when she wasn't working, she didn't tie her long hair back in a ponytail, but let it fall loosely around her shoulders. This, however, only made the girl with the perpetually downcast gaze even more inconspicuous. Last night, her figure had been noticeable, but today, no one would guess the stunning beauty hidden beneath her plain exterior. The stray raindrops had already soaked parts of her clothes, and her ears were red from the cold. Combined with her delicate features, She looked both adorable and heartbreakingly pitiful. Why didn't you leave? Leo asked, stunned, his emotions a tangled mess. My advisor called me in to help. I'm so sorry. At the sound of the familiar voice, Lily finally looked up. A faint smile seemed to touch her lips when she saw it was him. I had to wait for you, she said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. But it started raining so hard, and it's cold. I'm over an hour late. Anyone else would have thought I'd stood them up. What I did was rude. You should have just left. Lily looked at him seriously, and in her clear eyes, Leo could see nothing but his own reflection. I promised you. That brief moment of eye contact seemed to use up all her courage, and she quickly lowered her head again. And we had an agreement. Leo's heart twisted. He didn't know if he felt more happiness or guilt. Mostly, he just felt a deep ache of sympathy. How can she be so earnest? So naive? Then why didn't you wait inside? The wind is blowing rain all over you out here. I was afraid you wouldn't find me. Leo was speechless, frozen on the spot. Someone would actually wait for me. Not everyone is like Celeste, who would leave the moment I was even a little late. In that single instant, it truly was just an instant, Leo felt something inside him suddenly melt. He remembered her calling him a fool for waiting for someone in the rain for almost 2 hours. I'm not a fool. Because you came through the rain for me, too. So I knew I wasn't waiting for the wrong person. But the shy, tongue-tied girl didn't say that part out loud. Still think you're not a fool? I bet if I sold you, you'd help me count the money, Leo joked. You're not that kind of person. The girl shook her head gently. You were the only one who helped me. Leo smiled to himself. No more thank yous, okay? Lily, who had just opened her mouth to speak, dutifully closed it. Her mind whirred for a moment before she asked cautiously, then, can I treat you to a meal? Leo was about to refuse, but then noticed the girl's head was bowed deeply, her fingers nervously twisting the hem of her clothes. He cursed himself internally, then quickly put on a smile. Well, it seems my stomach has a mind of its own. Let's go. You're treating, so I'm going to order something expensive. He knew that if he didn't accept her gesture of gratitude, it would only make her feel worse about herself. Lily's mood seemed to brighten instantly, and she nodded eagerly. Leo found it amusing. She actually believed him when he said he'd run up the bill. How could someone be so easy to fool? The area was crowded, so Leo reached out and lightly pinched the cuff of Lily's sleeve, gently guiding them through the throng. While his back was turned, Lily glanced from his face to the sleeve he was holding. This gentle, respectful gesture filled her with a sense of security. She found herself wishing they could walk like this for just a little longer. But the moment didn't last. As soon as they reached a less crowded spot, Leo immediately let go and turned to her. The cafeteria is too packed at this hour. Besides, the food is expensive and terrible. Let's eat off campus. Okay, whatever you want to eat is fine. The girl responded immediately, then lowered her head nervously. But, I don't have an umbrella. It hadn't been raining when she left. Leo glanced at the dense curtain of rain outside. No problem, he said nonchalantly. We'll have one in a minute. He took out his phone, his thumb flying across the screen. Leo, boss, I'm at the library. Need 2 umbrellas, ASAP. Acknowledge. Jake, roger that. Organization has received. Over. Leo, remember to bring one for yourself. I'm going out to eat with a girl. Jake. His ever-efficient friend arrived within minutes. Here you go. I'm out, Jake said, handing an umbrella to Leo, who had met him on the stairs. After catching a glimpse of Lily, he shot Leo a knowing look. Why is there only one? Leo asked, curious. Jake looked at him without batting an eye. The other one suddenly broke. Watching Jake's retreating back, Leo sighed helplessly. He slowly opened the umbrella, holding it over the girl who stood there, looking dazed. Guess we'll have to make do? Lily kept her head down, nervously wringing her hands before giving a soft mum. She walked beside him in silence, looking perfectly obedient. Under the shared umbrella, they merged into the crowd. Seeing that Lily was too shy to talk, Leo didn't push a conversation, and they walked quietly through the fine mist. The constant patter of raindrops on the umbrella gradually drowned out the sound of the girl's racing heart. This was the first time she had ever been this close to a boy, let alone shared an umbrella with one. After a while, Leo led her off campus and stopped on an old street. Here we are. Hearing his voice, the girl looked up. The first thing she saw was a well-decorated hot pot restaurant. She pressed her lips together but said earnestly, let's go in. Money could be earned again, but a debt of kindness had to be repaid, especially since Leo was the first person to ever stand up for her. Not there. Here. Who eats hot pot for lunch? Leo pointed to a small noodle shop next door. This place has been open for over 20 years. My dad used to bring me here all the time when I was a kid. Though taking a girl he barely knew to a place like this might not seem ideal, since Lily was paying, its affordability and delicious food made it a perfect choice. His reasoning was sound, and Lily didn't question it, following him inside. Despite the rain, the shop was still bustling, filled mostly with students from their university. Clearly, no good food spot could escape the notice of today's college students. Leo didn't fight her for the bill, silently watching as Lily scanned the code to pay. 1 bowl of noodles each, for a total that was less than a few dollars. Only you freshmen are silly enough to eat at the cafeteria, Leo chuckled. Tell me if you like it. Lily handed a pair of chopsticks to Leo before lowering her head to eat in small, delicate bites. Every so often, she would sneak a peek at him before quickly averting her gaze. Leo watched the timid girl across from him, his thoughts in a tangle. It seemed that ever since he first met her, everything had unfolded in a strange, unexpected way. He wasn't sure which of them had stumbled into the other's world, but he felt that Lily had brought a new, different color to his life. He never would have imagined that she would actually wait for him for so long, standing in a place where she'd get rained on just so he wouldn't miss her. The warmth in his chest hadn't subsided, like a pebble tossed into a calm lake, sending ripples out, one after another. It's good, right? He asked with a smile. Mom. Though Lily ate gracefully, her cheeks were puffed out with food. Her innocent eyes met his for a brief moment before she buried her head again like an ostrich, a faint blush creeping onto her cheeks, as if thinking, if I can't see you, you can't see me. It seemed most girls disliked appearing like a big eater in front of others. Watching the girl with cheeks puffed out like a hamster, the corners of Leo's mouth turned up in an unconscious smile. He rested his chin on his hand, quietly watching her. He gazed out at the drizzling rain, feeling a sense of gentle peace, a moment of simple beauty. Why are you saving money so hard when you're already working a part-time job? Leo asked softly, his eyes falling on the burn mark on her arm. Lily quickly swallowed the food in her mouth and spoke slowly. I'm saving up for my mom's surgery. Seeing the girl's expression suddenly darken, Leo quickly changed the subject. He felt a pang of sympathy for this foolish girl who would wait for him in the rain. Is that Mia-Lin your friend? When she nodded, Leo asked again, then, am I your friend? The girl froze. Though her bangs covered her eyes, Leo could vaguely see them blinking. Her eyes were truly beautiful, so beautiful that the single glance he'd had last night was enough for him to picture them now. They were etched in his mind. Can I be? She asked cautiously after a moment, her head slightly tilted up, a hint of hope in her heart. Can I be? What are you talking about? Wasn't I the one asking you? Leo was completely bewildered. Her question nearly fried his brain. I guess so. Thank you, Lily said softly. Before, she was the only friend I had. Hearing this, Leo didn't say anything more. He just took out his phone and placed it in front of her. Since we're friends now, let's grab a meal together sometime. Lily held her own phone with both hands and scanned his code. Her phone was an old, cheap model, but she had clearly taken great care of it, a stark contrast to Leo's, which looked like it had survived a war. Your profile picture. Why is it a bubble toy? Leo couldn't help but laugh. It was just so odd. He thought Jake's profile picture, some ridiculous internet meme, was already absurd enough. Because someone gave it to me. I used to have one of those. They were pretty expensive back in the day. I gave mine away once and got a real beating from my mom when I got home. Leo's smile faded as he spoke. He remembered the little girl who had likely lost her father, and then he looked at Lily, who was pinching every penny to pay for her mother's treatment. This world, he thought, really isn't gentle at all. Meanwhile, Celeste Mo was walking down the street, drawing countless stares. Unlike Lily, she wore a different outfit every day. Even in the light rain, she was dressed in a chic, camel-colored, slim-fit mock-neck sweater and a long black skirt. The outfit perfectly accentuated her near-perfect proportions, and with her long, straight black hair, she gave off an air of sophisticated confidence. Even with a little mud on her shoes, her slender waist commanded so much attention that no one would ever look down. However, a keen observer might have noticed that this young lady had rarely been caught in the rain, or even gone out much on rainy days. Her friend, Chloe Liu, walking beside her, was sensibly dressed in a thicker jacket and jeans. Despite this, Chloe was quite attractive herself, but with Celeste next to her, no one spared her a glance. Celeste was a little on edge today. She was determined to prove to Chloe that she could get along just fine without Leo. But the moment she stepped into the cafeteria and saw the long lines, her brow furrowed. Did Leo have to wait in lines this long to get my food? She didn't dwell on it. It wasn't about the money for takeout. She was just being stubborn, determined to buy her own food from the cafeteria. She would also pick up her own packages, register for her own classes, and handle all her class president duties herself. As she listed out her plan, a wave of shame washed over her. These were all things that, for everyone else, were just normal parts of life. Celeste dabbed at Chloe's hair with a tissue as they walked out of the campus gate. If the cafeteria was too crowded, they would just eat elsewhere. Chloe didn't seem to mind, but Celeste was already at her wits' end with the queuing. The noise, the crowds, the people obnoxiously blasting tacky videos on their phones. It was giving her a headache. Just as she was heading towards a familiar restaurant, she suddenly spotted Leo. Except, he was sitting across from a girl who was completely different from her. The girl wasn't complaining to Leo about all her problems. She was just quietly eating, occasionally stealing glances at him. And Leo was just watching her, his chin propped on his hand. They weren't saying much, but why did they look so comfortable together? Why was Leo having a meal with a girl other than me? He was only ever with me. Celeste froze, a heavy feeling settling in her chest. It was a mixture of anger and frustration. That should be me he's looking at. His gentleness has belonged only to me all these years. Chloe spotted them a moment later, but by the time she tried to stop her, Celeste was already walking over. The other girl was still focused on her food. Celeste's eyes were locked on Leo. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice sharp. Leo saw Chloe behind her, wearing an expression that clearly said, "I tried to stop her." Though he felt it was all unnecessary, he was still grateful for her attempt to help him. Even if someone's intentions are misguided, you have to appreciate the effort. "What does it look like I'm doing? Is there a problem?" Leo asked, genuinely confused. "Don't you like me? Then why are you eating with another girl? Is this what you call liking someone?" Because they were in public, Celeste kept her voice low, but the anger in her tone was unmistakable. "Yes, I like you. But I also said during my confession that I wouldn't anymore." Leo's tone was colder than even he expected. Normally, being this close to Celeste, seeing her face to face, would make his heart race. But right now, he felt nothing. "So this is what a dead heart feels like. You're the one who rejected me. You gave me two choices. Either keep being your lapdog, or we couldn't even be friends. As you can see, I chose the latter. Because I'm tired," Leo said with a self-mocking laugh. "I'm not some saint. I have no reason to keep being good to you when I know it's hopeless." The coldness in his voice stung her, and she suddenly felt the urge to cry. She didn't understand why, but her vision blurred as tears welled up in her eyes. Celeste tried to hold them back, to put on a dismissive smile, but she had spent her whole life letting her emotions out freely, waiting for others to comfort her. She was a terrible actress. In the end, all she could manage was to say, through a stream of tears, "Fine. No problem. You can eat with 10 girls for all I care. As long as you're happy." She then raised a slender hand to tuck a tear-soaked strand of hair behind her ear. "Since you won't answer my calls, don't even think about getting through to me if you call. I won't answer. Not once. Okay, fine. So, what's your reason for coming here to criticize me?" Leo asked, tilting his head. "You can't even say, can you? We're not even friends anymore. You're overstepping." Celeste was stunned by his words. Suddenly, Leo seemed like a complete stranger. So unfamiliar it felt like she was meeting him for the first time. It had been 7 years since Leo had given her the first bouquet of flowers. And if you counted from when they first met, they had known each other for over a decade. But no matter how far back she searched in her memory, Leo had never, ever looked at her like this. There wasn't a single spark of light in his eyes as he looked at her. Why? Why is he looking at me like that? Where did the Leo who would always smile and coax me, no matter how angry I was, go? "You were never like this before." The words escaped her lips before she could stop them. "You want to talk about before, Celeste? Fine, let's talk." Leo stared at the girl he had loved for 7 years. "What were you like before?" "Once, I asked you out to dinner. You agreed. I waited for you for 3 hours that night, until the restaurant was closing, and you never showed up. When I asked you about it later, you said you forgot. Do you remember that? You probably don't. But I remember the pitying looks everyone gave me. Before, I groveled like a dog trying to please you. And what did I get in return? 2 rejections. I wanted to be your boyfriend, not just some dog at your side. And now I don't want anything. I just want to keep my distance from you." Celeste was silent, perhaps shocked by the coldness in his expression, or perhaps because she didn't know how to respond. She just stood there, wiping away her tears. Leo made no move to comfort her, just sat and watched. So beautiful, even when crying. A girl he had loved for 7 years was crying in front of him. Of course it felt strange, but Leo forced himself to stay put. "Chloe, we're not eating here. Let's go get some fish with pickled greens," Celeste said, her eyes red as she turned away, her voice thick with tears. "The pickled fish is at the East cafeteria. We just came from there," Chloe whispered awkwardly in Celeste's ear. "Then we'll go back. Hold on, your favorite Odin stall is near here." Celeste froze. Has Leo always been running back and forth like this to get me food? Chloe seemed to read her mind, just looking at her with a shrug. Though Chloe guessed what Celeste was thinking, she was still surprised that even after seeing Leo with another girl, even after getting a small glimpse of his efforts, she still wasn't willing to be the first to yield. To her surprise, Celeste still turned and walked away. "You're going the wrong way. We need to go east." Chloe stood her ground, glanced at the motionless Leo, then at the fuming Celeste who was now walking in the wrong direction. She sighed deeply and hurried after her. It was the same expression Leo had seen on his mother's face when the main characters in a drama just miss each other. Watching the girl walk away, wiping her tears, Leo felt a mix of emotions. This was the first time he had ever made Celeste cry. "So she can cry because of me? But it doesn't matter anymore. I want to let go." He repeated the words to himself over and over, then sat back down and fiddled with his phone, aimlessly opening and closing apps. 7 years was too long to let go of so easily. The process would be painful, even if it took another 7 years of heartache. He wasn't going back. "I never imagined that all the years of my youth I spent on you would turn out to be nothing but a sunk cost." After Celeste left, she continued her experiment in self-sufficiency, but Leo no longer cared to know the details. He knew she would soon discover that after running all over to buy everything she wanted, she'd be too exhausted to have an appetite. She would discover what a pain it was to pick up packages from various collection points scattered far from each other. She would discover that finding a seat in the library wasn't so easy, and that no matter how pretty you were, getting a leave of absence from an advisor was still next to impossible. Right now, she was like the mermaid in the fairy tale who had just come ashore, every step in agony. Leo slowly walked out of the noodle shop and looked up at the sun, which had just squeezed out from behind a dark cloud. The sunlight felt warm on his skin, and the air, fresh after the rain, was clean and crisp. The rain has stopped. The scene that had just unfolded seemed beyond Lily's comprehension. She was now walking with her head down, completely silent. Leo's mind was in a turmoil as well. He couldn't understand why Celeste had come to confront him. Or rather, he suspected why, but he didn't want to face it. She just wasn't used to life without her adoring follower. Leo took a deep breath of the fresh air, feeling the cool breeze on his face. He let out a self-deprecating laugh. That girl just now. I chased her for 7 years. I never got a single thing in return, but I kept at it for 7 years. Pretty stupid, right? To his surprise, Lily just shook her head seriously. She then took a piece of fruit candy from her pocket. Because Leo was taller than her, she had to raise her right hand, her small, delicate hand opening slowly like a flower. Leo carefully took the candy, looking at her with curiosity. Why are you giving me this? Because I don't want you to be sad. The girl's voice was soft, yet so gentle and sincere. Someone once told me that when you're sad, eating something sweet helps. Leo froze once again. The cool wind blew against him, but it couldn't cool the warmth that was spreading through his heart. He never would have imagined that the one thing that could soothe his heartache these past 2 days would be a piece of candy from a near stranger. After a long moment, he finally came back to his senses and sniffled. By the way, why do you live off campus? The dorms at our university are pretty cheap, right? I have to take care of my mom. I see. Where are you heading now? I'll walk you, Leo said softly. The green apple candy was slowly dissolving in his mouth, a wave of sweetness spreading with it. And it felt like his heart was melting, too. You don't have to. I'm going to my part-time job. It's really far. Lily clutched the hem of her clothes, her eyes fixed on Leo's shadow. She didn't know why, but she just loved looking at him like this. This way, he wouldn't notice, and she wouldn't have to worry about accidentally meeting his eyes. It felt safe. She felt she was already being bold enough. A girl's wish could be as simple as just wanting to look at a boy's shadow. Lily had been sensible from a young age, even more so after her father passed away. Her mother's illness had made her even more reluctant to be selfish, to be willful, to be anything but responsible. Suppressing her own desires had become a habit. Studying hard and working to earn money for her mother's treatment had become her survival instinct. She had no hobbies, no interest in makeup or skincare like other girls her age. She didn't know how, nor did she want, to spend time picking out clothes and dressing up. Just being able to look at the boy who had brought a glimmer of light into her dim world was enough. Suddenly, Leo leaned down and smiled at her. His handsome face once again filled her vision, making her bow her head even lower. But she couldn't resist sneaking a peek at him from the corner of her eye. The boy's smile was so gentle. Besides her own mother, it had been a long, long time since anyone had looked at her with such a smile. The last time might have been a decade ago. Seeing that she was just looking down, not unhappy, Leo felt relieved. He smiled. I can walk you to your job. I don't have anything to do this afternoon. This is the joy of being a junior. You freshmen wouldn't understand. She was about to refuse, but then she saw Leo looking at her with a mock-stern expression. She quickly nodded obediently. Leo deliberately stepped on the shallow puddles, making splashing sounds. Watching the girl walking obediently in front of him, he couldn't help but smile to himself. Seriously, Lily, you're really a fool. I'm not a fool. The sun had now completely chased away the clouds, its generous lights spilling over them. The world around them instantly brightened, the scene shifting to a warm color palette. Including the girl in Leo's eyes, who was still walking with her head down. The weather was perfect. Even just a walk felt blissful. This stupid sun is just beating down on me. Celeste, if you're really tired, let's just take a break, Chloe said, panting as she looked back at the exhausted girl behind her. The long skirt swayed around her slender waist as she bit her lip, looking lost and vulnerable in a way that was strangely captivating. Chloe sighed to herself, glad she already had a boyfriend, or she might have been swayed. She's just too beautiful. But when will you understand that looks alone aren't enough to keep Leo? When will you let go of your pride? You have every right to be proud, but you can't get love that way. Celeste seemed not to have heard her. She was clutching 2 packages, staring blankly ahead, walking like a wind-up doll. Her legs ached, and her mood had hit rock bottom. After running around all afternoon, by the time she finally had all her favorite dishes in front of her, she was too tired to eat. The money she'd spent didn't bother her, but the feeling of all her hard work going to waste was frustrating. It was only now that she realized just how much stuff she bought online. Before, she just bought whatever she wanted without a second thought for how much effort it would take to retrieve it all. Paired with her confrontation with Leo, her mind was now a mess, filled with thoughts of that unremarkable girl. Is she prettier than me? Why was Leo eating with her? Why did Leo suddenly change so completely? Even other guys I've rejected multiple times didn't change their attitude. But she quickly pushed these thoughts aside. Leo will come back and apologize on his own, just like he always has. How dare he not answer my call? I won't forgive him so easily next time. After dropping Lily off, Leo wandered around for a while to clear his head, not returning to the dorm until late at night. As his hand touched the doorknob, he heard his friends' voices from inside. You guys think Leo has a shot with that girl he met at the gate? He's been out since lunch, Jake's distinct, slightly raspy voice said. You're misunderstanding things. I think you're underestimating Leo by saying that, the other two roommates countered. Damn it, isn't it a good thing he's finally moving on? I was seriously afraid he'd hang himself from that one crooked tree forever, Jake laughed. Then, the only sound in the room was the clatter of keyboards. Boss, you sound like a worried mother, Leo said with a wry smile as he walked in. The moment he entered, he was met with 3 pairs of scrutinizing eyes. You jerk, staying out with a girl this late. It wasn't like that. We went our separate ways after lunch. I've been on my own since, Leo said as he climbed into his bed. Nothing happened between us, okay? He then closed his eyes, ignoring their teasing remarks. A moment later, he shot up and grabbed his phone, then paused. With a sigh, he lay back down. Out of habit, he'd been about to send a goodnight text, but then he realized there was no one to send it to anymore. He suddenly saw that strange bubble toy profile picture and, on an impulse, tapped on it, hesitating whether to say hello. Just then, he saw that Lily had sent a message. Good evening. Leo blinked, still thinking about what to say when Lily retracted the message. What on earth is she doing? Fresh out of the shower, Lily was the very picture of loveliness. Her hair was piled on top of her head, and she wore a loose white t-shirt and shorts. Her face was arrestingly beautiful, her swan-like neck exposed by the wide collar, and her long, slender legs were impossible to ignore. Her chest, even under the loose shirt, was gracefully curved. The only odd thing was the plastic wrap wound several times around her arm. Her clear, bright eyes stared blankly at the empty chat window between them. She agonized over her words, unable to even decide how to say hello. As time ticked by, the faint smile on her lips faded, and her breathing grew quicker. She finally glanced at the time. 10 minutes had passed. 10 minutes, and she still hadn't figured out what to say. What am I doing? She didn't have many friends and had never been the one to initiate a conversation. Even a simple greeting was an immense challenge for her. After another long pause, she finally gathered her courage and typed, "Good evening." The 2 simple words sat there, a lone boat on the vast white sea of the chat background. Staring at the message she had sent, so stark in the empty conversation, her heart began to pound as if it would leap out of her chest. She hastily, clumsily, retracted the message. Frustrated and embarrassed, Lily rubbed her face, tossed her phone aside, and rolled around on her bed a couple of times. She ended by burying her face in her pillow, her slender legs kicking the air twice. He didn't see it, right? He probably didn't see it. Please don't reply, please don't reply. I'm begging you. Lily was torn, both hoping Leo would ignore it and not message her, and feeling a pang of sadness at the blank chat window. But he's so handsome and has such a good personality. He probably has plenty of people to talk to. After all, Leo's gentleness was like the spring dew, nurturing others. It was quiet, never overstepping, just a silent offering. Most importantly, he never put any pressure on her. When he had held her sleeve in the crowd, she had felt so safe, as if all she had to do was follow him, and everything else would be taken care of. The thought brought back the image of the princess-like girl she had seen at the noodle shop. She was truly beautiful, and her clothes, which looked expensive, suited her perfectly. So beautiful that Lily hadn't dared to look at her for more than a second. The girl's eyes were filled with pride. She must have come from an excellent family, raised in a bubble of privilege. We're from completely different worlds. No wonder Leo likes her. Lily sniffled, quickly composing herself. She plugged in her phone to charge, and went to prepare a basin of water to wash her mother's feet. Ever since her father had passed away from illness, she had long since learned to bury all her worries deep inside. She checked her reflection in the bathroom mirror, making sure she looked completely normal, before carrying the basin of water to her mother, Sarah Xiao. Sarah had been diagnosed with a neurological condition a few years ago, leaving her with almost no feeling in her legs. The doctors said surgery was the only option, and even in the best-case scenario, she would only regain enough sensation to walk with crutches. That wasn't the biggest problem. The biggest problem was, they didn't have that kind of money. When you're poor, you learn quickly that you can't rely on relatives. No one was willing to lend them the money for the surgery. So, all she could do was work hard to support their household, and soak and massage her mother's legs every day, praying it would buy her a little more time to earn money. Once she could prove she could pay back a loan, she would try to apply for one. Pushing all these thoughts aside, Lily forced a smile for her weary-looking mother. She then bent down and began to wash her mother's feet. Sarah watched her diligent daughter, her eyes suddenly misting over with a wave of sorrow. This foolish girl, just starting university, was supposed to be enjoying her youth. Instead, She had been forced to bear the weight of the family from a young age. The more mature and responsible her daughter became, the more her heart ached with guilt and self-reproach. Lily had been such a cheerful and lively child, just like other kids. She loved to dress up, loved pretty little dresses. She would ask her the most naive and strange questions with a bright smile. But after her father passed away, it was as if Lily had become a different person. It felt like her daughter had grown up overnight. She no longer smiled as much, but she rarely cried in front of her either. Years ago, when she saw a little Lily leaning against a wall, watching other children play for a long time before turning to go back to the kitchen to cook, her heart had felt like it was being stabbed, the pain so sharp she could barely breathe. More than once, she had thought about ending it all, to stop being a burden to her daughter. But then she would imagine Lily all alone, and she wouldn't dare. Could Lily handle it on her own? So Sarah would resolve to do it, then hesitate, then give up, a cycle of torment. Coming back to the present, Sarah brought up a topic she had raised countless times. Lily, honey, let's stop thinking about my treatment, okay? I'm used to being paralyzed. No. For once, Lily's reply was firm, her hands never ceasing their motion. Then how about you send me back to our old hometown? The expenses here are too high, and my checkups are expensive too. If you were here alone, you'd have much less pressure. No, I can really take care of myself. You're grown up now, you should have your own life. If I stay here, it will affect your chances of getting married. Sarah pressed on, her eyes turning red. No. The girl's voice was now thick with tears, and her hands stopped moving. A single teardrop fell into the basin, and the warmth of the water seemed to turn to ice in Sarah's heart. She quickly stroked her daughter's head. I won't say it again, I won't. We'll get through this together, just the two of us. Lily wiped her tears with the back of her hand and resumed the massage. Sarah's gaze once again fell on the small red patch on her daughter's arm. She remembered the ointment and gauze her daughter had brought home the other night, and a few possibilities, along with a flicker of hope, bloomed in her heart. After all, her daughter had once refused to even see a doctor or buy medicine when she had a high fever. Honey, are you sure you burned yourself by accident? No one was bullying you, were they? She knew that although Lily could be a bit naive, after more than a decade of housework, she was never clumsy. No, nothing like that. Lily lowered her head even further, her voice a whisper. Having rarely lied in her life, she couldn't bring herself to look her mother in the eye. Did you buy that medicine? Sarah asked, curious. The girl shook her head. Our friend bought it. Sarah understood, thinking of the cheerful, lovely girl with the cute canine teeth who had visited their home once. Her daughter had only ever mentioned this one friend over the years. Maybe she was the only friend she had. Was it Mia? She's such a good kid. No, it was Leo. Leo? That sounds like a boy's name. Sarah was stunned. Then a mix of surprise and joy filled her as she asked cautiously. That sounds like a boy's name. Are you too close? How she wished her daughter could have her own relationships, her own life. He's a boy. He's very nice, just like Mia, Lily said softly. After a moment, she added, we're just new friends. Though Lily didn't say much, Sarah noticed the slight pause in her movements and guessed there was more to it. She said no more, just reached out with a hand full of apology and gently tucked a loose strand of her daughter's hair behind her ear. Late at night, her eyes still a little red, Lily finally finished her chores and collapsed onto her bed. She curiously tapped on the notification on her phone, and a smile instantly bloomed on her face. A lovely, charming smile. In the dark room, the faint glow of the phone screen was reflected in the girl's eyes. She took a screenshot of the message and stared at it for a long, long time. Leo, get some rest. And remember to put medicine on your burn. A few more days passed. It was early in the morning. Leo, hey, wake up. Leo was shaken awake by Ryan Lee. He rubbed his eyes and glared at the boy who was leaning over his bed railing. Seeing Leo was awake, Ryan pushed his glasses up his nose and gave him a strange, sheepish smile. Are you sick? Leo grumbled. I must be sleeping in the wrong position to be having a dream about a guy waking me up. What a nightmare. Just as Leo was about to lie back down, Ryan pushed him up again. What is it? Leo sat up straight. He glanced at his phone. It was only 7:15 a.m. What kind of college student, with no class, has any reason to be up at 7 in the morning? I need a favor. Remember how you helped out with the freshman welcome party? I need you to go help the club that's preparing for the festival. Ryan's tone was desperate. This centennial celebration is going to be even crazier. I'm seriously swamped. Leo glanced at Jake, who was still fast asleep, and lowered his voice to a hiss. Are you even human? Asking a guy who's still not over a breakup for a favor. Jake, who was still fast asleep. Come on, man. If you don't, you'll have to get over the shadow of losing me too. Ryan looked genuinely panicked. He must have just gotten the notice. He was clearly one of those fools who had believed the lie that student government is a great place to gain experience. Even if he had managed to become a leader, he was still just a slightly cleverer fool. They stared at each other for a moment. Leo blinked slowly and said, Who are you again? Why would I be sad about losing you? Seeing Ryan's crestfallen face, Leo chuckled. Call me something nice, and I'll help you. Despite his words, Leo was already getting ready to change and get up. Dad, I'll treat you to a seafood buffet when this is over. Two of them. This sudden acquisition of a son startled Leo. Whoa, are you for real? I'm really swamped. The school administration just keeps coming up with new things on a whim. Ryan sighed deeply. That's what you get for joining the student government, for thinking you could get a head start on a civil service career. Now you see, don't you? I don't know where you heard that from, Leo said as he walked to the bathroom to wash up. Ryan followed him like a puppy, explaining all the things he needed help with. Besides, I'm doing pretty well, aren't I? Ryan mumbled defensively. He saw Leo, who was brushing his teeth, shoot him a glance, and quickly shut his mouth. Ryan then cheerfully made Leo's bed, fawning over him in every possible way. He saw Leo, who was brushing his teeth, shoot him a glance. Only Jake remained blissfully asleep. Although he was a good friend to all of them, unreliable was a label he would probably never shake. Leo, on the other hand, was good at handling everything, so he was often asked for help by everyone, including their advisor. Of course, they were never stingy with their gratitude. For example, Leo was the student who had the easiest time getting a leave of absence. No one else even came close. In a spacious lecture hall, Celeste Mo sat by the window, a smile briefly touching her lips as she watched the dance club members' movements become more and more precise. Then, just as quickly, her expression clouded over. She was a little lost in thought as she watched the dance club members' movements become more and more precise. Though she had quit the dance club in her sophomore year, she had been asked to come back and help guide their performance for the university's 100th anniversary celebration. It seemed like this centennial was a big deal to everyone. Celeste, wearing black opaque tights, casually stretched her long, eye-catching legs and gazed at the few white clouds in the sky, her thoughts drifting back in time. Ever since she was a child, besides her studies, her mother had forced her to learn a mishmash of skills: the gouging, the electronic keyboard, dance, advanced math. But even though it was busy and tiring, she had always had Leo by her side, available at a moment's notice, which had made it all just about bearable. Every time she finished a class, she would call Leo to come hang out, and he had never once refused. When Leo was at his family's home for the summer, he would even take a 3-hour bus ride just to wait for her outside her tutoring center. But now, things were different. Why did everything suddenly change? Celeste couldn't figure it out. She looked at Chloe, who had insisted on coming with her, and was now sitting beside her, giggling at a show she was binge-watching. She felt a mix of emotions. She looked at Chloe, who had insisted on coming with her, and was now sitting beside her, giggling at a show she was binge-watching. Let's take a break, Celeste said, clapping her hands lightly. Everyone has improved. We can just keep practicing at this pace. As her cool, pleasant voice fell, everyone let out a collective sigh of relief and found a place to rest. No one had any objections to Celeste's guidance. After all, their senior was more beautiful than a celebrity, and when she danced, she was absolutely captivating, like a figure stepping out of a painting. But they didn't get too close to her. Celeste was too proud, and there was an indescribable sense of distance when talking to her. Even though she had bought everyone an expensive dessert, they all still felt a little awkward around her. Just then, a freshman with a ponytail walked up to her. Celeste, for some reason, the props and sound system we ordered haven't arrived yet. Is there any way you can help? The girl looked dejected. As a freshman, she took this opportunity to perform in front of the whole university very seriously. You used to be in the dance club, and you're the class president, so I thought I'd ask you. I'll see what I can do, Celeste said, feeling helpless and frustrated. Though she held the title of class president, she was clueless about these things. It had always been Leo who helped her, including the time she performed as a freshman. Other than rehearsing and performing, she hadn't had to worry about a single thing. Leo had handled everything else. The whole process had been smooth and effortless. It was only now that she was realizing just how many complicated things there were to manage. I'm craving boba tea. I'll go get some. What does everyone want? Chloe, sensing Celeste's predicament, stood up to change the subject. Don't worry about it, Chloe. My boyfriend said he's bringing some for me, the girl with the ponytail said with a small, proud smile. She was clearly in the early, blissful stages of a new relationship. Oh great. That saves me the trouble. Chloe sat back down next to Celeste. Free boba tea without having to go buy it herself? She was perfectly happy with that. It had somehow become common knowledge that when you buy boba tea for your girlfriend, you buy for her friends too. Perhaps because a best friend's influence is truly terrifying. The saying goes that a guy in a relationship has to support his girlfriend's entire dorm, while he relies on his own dorm to support him. She had certainly had her fair share of boba tea bought by Leo over the past 3 years. Celeste didn't join the conversation, still looking distracted. Back then, Leo had also shown up to her rehearsal carrying a whole tray of boba tea. After handing them out, he would walk over to her and say with a gentle smile, "This one with 70% sugar is yours. I only asked them to add a little bit of coconut jelly." And then she, like a princess in a fairy tale uniquely loved by a prince, would be the object of countless envious stares. Not long after, the girl's boyfriend arrived. The boy stood at the door, looking around. The girl spotted him and ran over excitedly. And then she realized he was only holding 1 cup of boba tea. Embarrassed and annoyed, she pulled her boyfriend a few steps outside. Whether they were having a discussion or an argument, it was impossible to tell. Celeste couldn't help but smile at the scene. Humph, so clumsy. If it were Leo, he would have asked in advance how many people were here. Could it be that Leo really is that much better than other guys? In the next second, the proud smile that had unconsciously appeared on her face vanished. The girl realized that no matter how great Leo was, he no longer belonged to her. Chloe naturally noticed her best friend's change in mood. She placed a hand on her slender shoulder, about to say something. Right, don't be shy about asking. If you need anything else, just ask for it. Be polite, but keep reminding them. The more hesitant you are to push, the more they'll neglect you. But your attitude has to be. Leo walked in, carrying a sound system, followed by the vice president of the dance club, who was carrying a large pile of costumes. It's hard to say who saw whom first, Celeste or Leo. But for a moment, they both froze. Anyway, remember to be persistent, but always be polite. No one punches a smiling face, Leo said, finishing his sentence as if he hadn't seen her at all. He then silently brought in the props and sound system, connected them to a laptop, and did a sound check. From start to finish, he didn't say a single word to Celeste. After setting up the miscellaneous items, he tested the speakers to make sure they worked properly. Leo stood in front of the computer, clicking the mouse, feeling a wave of frustration. Of all the places to run into her, this was unbelievable. Ryan Lee, I'm going to kill you. What Leo didn't know was that, to the girls in the dance club who had been worrying about this for days, his appearance was like a divine intervention, especially since he handled everything so smoothly and efficiently all by himself. To these freshman girls, he was a handsome, gentle upperclassman who knew what he was doing. But in Chloe's uninformed mind, a different story was taking shape. How did Leo know? Did he come to help on his own? Was he still trying to pursue Celeste? She wasn't sure. Although Leo had indeed helped, his behavior at the noodle shop suggested he had truly given up. After the speakers successfully played the music, Leo quietly turned the volume down. You're amazing. Thank you. A few of the girls called out. Leo smiled and gave a slight nod, offering a perfunctory, keep up the good work, before turning to leave. There were other groups and a myriad of other problems waiting for him. Being a dad is hard work. Watching Leo's back, Celeste's mouth fell slightly open, her cool, beautiful eyes blinking. Contrary to what she had expected, not only did Leo not come to apologize before leaving, he didn't even speak to her. Come on, just apologize already. But before she could process this, a freshman girl grabbed her phone and ran after him. Seeing the girl chase after Leo, Celeste's heart inexplicably tightened. It felt like a hand was clawing at her chest, filling her with an overwhelming sense of irritation. Her breathing grew shallow. Soon, she saw the freshman return with a dejected look on her face, and for some reason, she breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't get his number. Maybe it's not that he wasn't interested in you. A guy that great probably already has a girlfriend. I remember now. I think I saw him walking off campus with a girl from our class one afternoon. One girl said, scratching her head. But the girl didn't look like much. She always kept her head down. But he said, he just got rejected and isn't in the mood. The girl who had asked for his number mumbled. Are you kidding? How could a guy that great get rejected? Is that girl stupid? The chatter grew louder. All right, back to practice. Celeste interrupted, her brow furrowed. Chloe leaned closer to Celeste, sighing at her own futility before whispering again. See? You better think this through. There are plenty of girls waiting to snatch Leo up. The first person he looked at when he came in was you. I guarantee if you just give in a little now, it's not too late. You're really going to regret this later. If you have any feelings for him, just take a step back. I don't want to see you heartbroken in the future. Chloe said all this because she had seen the look of disgust on Celeste's face when someone tried to get Leo's number. In this department, she was far more perceptive than most. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to tame the former player, Jake. Honestly, even she couldn't figure out what was going on in Celeste's head, but she was sure of one thing. Celeste was going to regret this. Celeste didn't speak, her fingers restlessly twisting a strand of her silky black hair, a clear sign of her turmoil. Is it really not too late? All I have to do is give in once, and things will go back to the way they were. She thought of Leo always being by her side, of the good morning and good night texts she hadn't received for days. The thought was like a piece of candy, making her swallow unconsciously. But does that mean we'd have to be together? Do I even like him? Celeste couldn't find the answer. She didn't think she had ever really liked anyone. After a fierce internal struggle, she seemed to make up her mind. Under Chloe's hopeful gaze, Celeste bit her lower lip and said slowly, impossible. In her entire life, Celeste Mo had never backed down. She would wait for him to apologize. Leo spent the whole morning running around, concluding that many of the new freshmen were spoiled, helpless fools. He grabbed a quick, mediocre lunch at the cafeteria, made sure to call and chew out Ryan Lee to vent his frustration, and then got back to work. A dad and 2 seafood buffets were worth the trouble. He looked at the messages on his phone, trying to decide which group of helpless fools to rescue next. The drama club's show is a stage play? Interesting. Aren't they afraid of dying from cringe? Leo didn't get it. Death is inevitable, but death by social embarrassment is not an option. He was walking across the track field, casting a disdainful look at a couple engaged in some public display of affection, a silent protest on behalf of all single people. Suddenly, a strangely dressed girl bounced in front of him and poked him with a fan. "Hi there." The girl's voice was lively and cute, but her cosplay outfit was so elaborate that Leo didn't recognize her at all. "Who are you?" he asked. "It's me, Mia Lin." Leo took a few steps back, glanced at the large sun umbrella, and realized this was the drama club's meeting spot. He sat down on a white plastic chair under the umbrella, his eyes scanning the area for a certain someone. Lily had said last night she would be helping out, so she should be here. He felt a little awkward for not recognizing her, but he quickly thought on his feet. "I know it's you. I meant, who are you cosplaying as?" "Kamisato Ayaka. Pretty, right? My costume just arrived today, so I thought I'd wear it out," Mia said, making a peace sign and snapping a selfie that showed off her signature canine teeth. Yeah, it's great." Leo praised her half-heartedly, his gaze fixed on a girl working diligently in the distance. Lily, her long hair in a ponytail, was carefully arranging props for the play, occasionally wiping the sweat from her forehead with the back of her hand. Mia, of course, noticed. She pouted, a mix of annoyance and amusement on her face, but didn't say anything. She knew that even though she was a bit flat-chested and had a more youthfully energetic figure, she wasn't unattractive. But, well, Lily was just so stunningly beautiful. Leo sat there, watching, waiting to see when the clueless Lily would finally notice him. Then, just like when he had watched the typing indicator the other night, 10 minutes passed without any result. People were already taking breaks, but you're still working. Are you an idiot? You're here to help. Are you an ox? Lily wasn't chatting with anyone, just quietly working on her own, moving tables, arranging foam props. What on earth was this drama club planning? Leo was getting anxious, regretting not going over to help from the start. "You're in the drama club, right? Lily is probably just here to help. So why are you slacking off?" Leo asked, raising an eyebrow. "I'm not feeling well," Mia said with a small smile, not elaborating. She quickly changed the subject. "Speaking of which, are you here for Lily? How did you know she was here?" Leo shook his head. "Huh? I didn't know. I'm here to help." Ryan Lee had something come up. He then cleared his throat. "So, what problems do you guys have here?" Mia felt a murderous rage building. "Here to help? Then why were you sitting there for so long while I was standing? Do you have any manners? Are you even human? You're here to help, and you were just sitting there? I thought you were just here to hang out. That was my seat." Mia snapped, her sharp canines on full display. "Hey, you have Lily helping you out, don't you?" Leo said, half joking. "She's so good to you. So busy with her part-time job, but still makes time to help you." If it were the naive Lily, she wouldn't have caught the underlying meaning in his words. But Mia was different. Mia got it instantly. Instead of being annoyed at his sarcastic remark, a smile spread across her face. "I'm treating her to a big meal after this, to improve our diet." She then looked over at the busy figure. Even though it's still work, this environment is different from her job. This counts as relaxing. Leo nodded slightly, saying no more. He figured that if he just offered to treat Lily to a meal for no reason, she might not accept. Mia was a clever one. "She's pitiful, but she's strong." Mia's smile suddenly vanished. Her cheerful tone turned serious, as if she had become a different person. "You know, that Celeste girl and Lily are probably the two most beautiful girls in our school." Leo's brow twitched. He let out a silent, bitter laugh. "She knows so much. When I first came to help, I didn't even get a clear look at her face," Leo said honestly. "She shouldn't be this beautiful." Mia framed Lily's figure with her hands, as if holding a camera. "She's very fragile. I'm afraid anyone could easily hurt her. That's why I don't want the wrong kind of people getting into her life. Her choice to keep a low profile is absolutely the right one. It was a secret not many people knew, but you found out." She then turned to Leo with a smile. "Luckily, you seem like a good person." "What do you mean, seem?" Leo retorted, getting a better read on Mia. It seemed she genuinely cared for Lily. "If you're only being nice to her because of her looks, then you're not a good person." Mia poked him with her fan again. "Spill it. Why are you being so nice to our Lily?" "Because she was the only girl willing to wait for me." Leo, who had been planning to joke around, suddenly turned serious, catching Mia off guard. "And she gave me candy." As Lily finally started walking towards them, Mia's mood seemed to drop. She muttered under her breath, "I hope you do a better job than I did. We're two of the few friends she has. It'll be hard for anyone else to get into her heart." When Lily got closer, Mia quickly changed the subject. "Do you want to come help with her? I'll treat you both to dinner afterwards." Leo blinked. "Can I still get the free meal if I don't help? I have a weak stomach, so I'm better suited for being a freeloader." Mia shot Leo a look and said nothing more. Leo rested his cheek on his hand, a mix of amusement and exasperation in his voice. "Lily, are you an ox? Don't you know how to take a break?" Hearing this, Lily, who had been agonizing over how to greet him, felt a wave of relief. He just started by teasing me, so now I don't have to think about what to say? With Mia, she could just loop her arm through hers, but Leo was a boy. As Lily was lost in thought, a bead of sweat trickled down her delicate cheek and onto her chest. She wasn't lying. The moment she saw Leo, she truly didn't feel tired anymore. And you call this not being tired, Leo commented. As soon as he said it, he noticed Lily's eyes were turning red. He glanced at Mia, who had a guilty expression on her face, which only confused him more. What's wrong? Leo walked over to Lily and leaned down slightly to look into her eyes, which were hidden behind her bangs. Lily wanted to take a step back, but she felt that would be rude to Leo. Her brain hadn't even had time to process before she froze on the spot. All she could do was shake her head vigorously. No, nothing's wrong. Her voice was soft, and the sound of it sent a sweet warmth through Leo's heart. You don't look like nothing's wrong. But Leo quickly thought of a strategy. He put on a stern face and asked, aren't we friends? You won't even tell me this. He then sighed dramatically, looking dejected. Fine, I guess I was just being presumptuous. It was all for nothing. Mia, thinking there was no reason to hide it from Leo, simply snorted. Who are you? She was throwing Leo's own words back at him, clearly holding a grudge. Lily had never seen these two in a dramatic showdown before. Her vision suddenly blurred with a mist of tears, and in a rush of panic, she confessed everything. Because I spent too much on lunch. Before she could finish, Leo gently guided her to a chair. Mia started fanning her with the fan from her cosplay. The sudden attention left the girl a bit flustered. Like a child who had done something wrong, Lily recounted the story with her head down. The drama club members were very welcoming and had insisted she eat with them. Because they all knew she was Mia's friend, she was afraid that just getting rice and potatoes would make Mia look bad, so she didn't order the cheapest dishes like she usually did. And then, her lunch had somehow cost her over 30 yuan. She had already been carefully picking the cheapest options, but the number on the card reader had still shocked her. Normally, even when she ate with her mother, each meal cost less than 5 yuan. This money was supposed to be for her mother's treatment. She had forced herself to eat every last bite, even though she felt sick to her stomach from being so full. When the drama club members praised her for her big appetite, she hadn't known what to say. Thinking about it again, Lily felt more and more like a terrible person who had squandered her mother's medical fund on her own enjoyment. Tears welled up in her eyes again. Guilt filled the girl's heart, crushing her until she could barely breathe. Watching Lily holding back her tears, and Mia, whose eyes were also red, Leo stood by helplessly, running a hand through his hair. You're all a bunch of fools, he said with a sigh. Everyone was just being nice, it was my... Lily softly countered, but then felt a little embarrassed. She didn't like the feeling of being contradicted, so she didn't want to contradict others. Especially not Leo. Leo glanced at her and smiled. You're the biggest fool of them all. And you have such a good heart. When it comes to being a fool, no one can surpass you. Lily was embarrassed by his words. Her lips pressed together as she lowered her head even further. But she didn't dislike him saying it. In fact, she loved the sound of his voice. Especially when he spoke with a light laugh. It filled her with a warm feeling. He then asked, a little curious, how come you weren't crying when you treated me to a meal? You're different, Lily said seriously, her head still down, her hands clasped together. Now it was Leo who was caught off guard, unsure of what to say. It was fine to treat me to an expensive meal, but not for herself? A small smile played on Leo's lips. He felt a little honored. After a while, seeing that Lily had calmed down, her embarrassment at revealing her feelings replacing her distress, Leo turned his gaze to the distance. The drama club members were still busy, some of them constantly reviewing their scripts, gathered in groups to discuss something. Students in tracksuits occasionally ran past him, many of them drawn by Mia's costume. One idiot in a blue tracksuit had already run past 5 or 6 times, each time stealing a glance, even though he was clearly about to collapse from exhaustion. What a weirdo. Even when I was a simp, I wasn't that ridiculous. Leo looked up at the sun, high in the sky, and squinted. The weather in April and May was notoriously unpredictable. He patted Lily's head, then glanced at Mia, before walking over to the drama club members. You guys rest. I'll go help. Watching his retreating back, Lily quickly stood up. I'll go too. But Mia held her back. Seeing Lily's confused expression and furrowed brow, Mia said with a mix of exasperation and amusement, he's here to help his friend on the student council. The kind of help he needs to give, you can't provide. Lily's furrowed brow relaxed. She blinked, watching Leo, who was now talking to the drama club members with a smile. Soon, a small circle of people had formed around him, laughing and talking about something. Someone even handed him a script to look at. Unlike her, who had been silent at lunch, Leo seemed to be able to talk to anyone, and people were happy to listen. He had solved her problem at the campus gate with just a few words. He's so capable. Just then, Leo, from a distance, pointed in their direction for some reason. Lily quickly lowered her head. Yeah, that girl just now had low blood sugar. You guys know better than I do that Mia is unreliable, Leo said, lowering his hand. If she comes to help again in the future, just let her and Mia make a token effort, and then tell them to go find a cool place to hang out. No wonder she looked so pitiful. One of the guys said knowingly, clearly falling for Leo's story. I guess people with low blood sugar can eat a lot. A not-so-bright-looking girl nodded. Leo smiled. I'll talk to my friends about the rest of the problems. Even if the school can't provide some of the props or costumes you need, you won't have to pay for them yourselves. Hearing this, everyone froze, then broke into wide smiles. Not all of them were freshmen. They all knew that if it hadn't been Leo, they might not have been so lucky. After all, the usual excuse was limited funds. Thank you so much. Leo sighed wearily. If you want to thank someone, thank those two girls. They were the ones who pestered me until I came. Since Leo was unlikely to have any further interaction with these social butterflies from the drama club, he might as well pass the credit on to Mia. After a while, he returned to the shade of the umbrella. He was starting to understand why Ryan Lee liked being on the student council so much. It was all about flaunting borrowed power. And he had to admit, the feeling was not bad. The university really is a small-scale society. All done? Mia asked curiously. She was now sitting in the chair, with Lily leaning against her, memorizing English words. It was only the second semester of her freshman year, and she was already preparing for the CET-6 exam. Seeing Leo return, Lily looked up at him and took a bottle of mineral water from her bag. Are you thirsty? Want some water? She asked softly. She rarely bought mineral water for herself. This bottle was given out by the drama club. I don't really drink water. Real men drink Pepsi, Leo said, letting out a lazy yawn. People actually drink toilet cleaner? Coca-Cola is the best, okay. Mia scoffed. Leo stood up, lifted her out of the chair, and sat down himself. Coca-Cola? Not even a dog would drink that. Mia was so angry her canine teeth bit into her lip. Not even a dog? So does that mean you drink it? Mia was incredibly frustrated. Leo was clearly playing favorites. She was sure that if it had been Lily sitting there, he would never have taken her seat. Seeing them bicker, Lily smiled secretly. This was the first time in her entire life she had felt like she was just hanging out with friends, even if it was just two of them. But she was so happy that she wondered if she was dreaming. After all, she had always been the one watching others chat and laugh from a distance. The joy and laughter had never belonged to her. Shouldn't I go help now? Lily asked, checking the time. No need. Leo, sprawled in the chair, grabbed her arm. The girl's arm felt just as it had that night, slender but soft. Leo couldn't resist giving it a gentle squeeze. Though he let go quickly, Lily's face turned as red as a tomato. She was confused and said nervously, but I came here to help. Lily felt the spot on her arm where Leo had held it was now hotter than her burn had been. We've already helped a lot. Even if we just rest here, they still have to thank us, Leo said, not bothering to explain. If you have that much energy, you might as well fan me. Your good friend needs your help. Lily just said, oh. A little while later, Leo, who had his eyes closed, felt a cool breeze on his face. He cracked an eye open and saw that Lily was actually fanning him. The girl seemed to think he wanted to sleep, and she was carefully controlling the force, making the breeze light and gentle. What kind of divine treatment is this? A vibration in his pocket made Leo slowly open his eyes. The gentle breeze was still brushing against his cheek. He glanced at the time. It was 5 in the afternoon. 2 hours had passed. Crap, I actually fell asleep. A nap like that always felt like time travel, especially after hitting the snooze button in the morning. You close your eyes, and you never know how much time will have passed when you open them again. Ryan Lee, your dad is this exhausted for you. When are you going to drop dead? Leo swore he had only intended to close his eyes for a moment to experience the feeling of someone fanning him. He never expected to fall asleep in seconds. He rubbed his eyes and looked to the side. Lily was holding her phone in one hand, diligently studying English words, while her other hand gently fanned him. Even without seeing her eyes clearly, from this distance, he could tell her skin was flawless, her face smooth and lovely with faint dimples. A few strands of her hair were stuck to her damp cheeks. Her t-shirt clung to her front, revealing a strange light blue color underneath, but she was completely oblivious, her lips moving silently as she memorized vocabulary. It seemed Lily had been in this position for the entire 2 hours without moving. Leo's heart was filled with a complex mix of emotions: happiness, guilt, gratitude, and a certain helplessness towards this naive girl. He didn't know which emotion was dominant. Just then, her gaze met his. Leo shot up, gently guided Lily into the chair, and took the fan from her hand. The girl was startled, not understanding what he was doing. Before she could speak, Leo began to fan her. As the cool breeze brushed against her cheeks, Lily closed her eyes, which were sore from staring at her phone. You don't have to. I'm not hot, Lily said softly, secretly kneading her arm, which was aching from holding the fan for so long. Just stay put. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to stop myself from slapping myself to death. Seeing the unexpected seriousness in Leo's tone, Lily said no more. She slowly closed her eyes, inexplicably savoring the moment. Before she met Leo, Hangzhou had been cold. Afterwards, the weather had become warm. Especially now, the sun on her skin was comfortable, and the breeze from the fan was so refreshing. This was a feeling she had never experienced before. Phone. The girl reminded him cautiously. Leo's phone had been ringing continuously for the past few minutes since he woke up. She thought it must be something important. Even if the president himself is calling, I'm going to fan you for a bit first. As he spoke, Leo took out his phone and glanced at the caller ID. Let's see who dares to disturb my slumber. I swear. Hey, Mom. Leo's tone instantly softened. Oh, so you do remember you have a mother? The voice on the other end was clearly suppressing a great deal of anger. The words sent a shiver down Leo's spine, and the hand holding the fan trembled, the fan tapping against Lily's cheek. The girl didn't dare make a sound. Leo, still groggy from sleep, subconsciously reached out and rubbed her cheek, then quickly pulled his hand back as he realized what he was doing. The girl, who was already feeling warm, now had cheeks that were completely flushed. She bowed her head, her lips pressed together, afraid her voice would carry over the phone. This, for some reason, made Leo want to tease her, but his conscience stopped him. Besides, if his mom heard a girl's voice, the questions would never end. It's not easy being away at university, is it? Coming home is such a hassle. Do you know how many days it's been since you've been home? I came back a few days ago. How come I didn't know? You were asleep. I didn't want to wake you. So you have to sneak into your own home like a thief? Your sister is in a crucial stage of high school, and you, as her older brother, don't even care? You come back and see her these next few days. Or don't bother coming back at all. Leo mumbled a few agreements and quickly hung up, letting out a sigh. He'd learned his sarcasm from the best. He looked up at the drama club, who were still rehearsing diligently, and asked curiously, "Where's Mia?" "You two scared her away." Her words left Leo completely bewildered. "We scared her away?" The girl, holding a hair tie in her mouth as she redid her ponytail, made Leo swallow unconsciously. He had to admit, that move was fatal to about 80% of guys. "She told me to stop fanning. I said I wasn't tired." And then she muttered something about disgusting couples and went back to her dorm to sleep. Lily said with a hint of remorse, trying to figure out why Mia had been angry. She was just kidding. Leo comforted her. Seeing the girl nod in relief, Leo rubbed his head in frustration. "Aren't you tired?" he asked, a headache coming on. "You said you needed my help." Lily's tone was completely serious. Leo felt his heart nearly stop. Forget it. Since she's gone, there's no reason for us to stay here either. "Do you have anything else to do?" he asked, changing the subject. "I have to go to my part-time job soon." Hearing this, Leo suddenly felt like a complete degenerate. Some people had to work 7 days a week, and here he was, comfortably spending his parents' money. Is this right? No, it's not. Leo yawned again. "All right, you rest for a bit. I'll fan you, and then I'll walk you there." Lily didn't say anything, just willfully closed her eyes, greedily savoring this tenderness she had never felt before. She tried to burn this moment into her mind, to carve it into her dreams. Just this once, it'll be okay, right? Time passed, minute by minute, as they chatted. In front of Leo, Lily gradually became more talkative. "Hey, by the way, Mia doesn't act, and she doesn't help out. So what does she do here all day?" Lily's mouth formed a small O as she yawned. "She's the vice president." Leo cleared his throat. Never mind then. It made sense. Anyone who ran around in a cosplay outfit for no reason was definitely a pillar of this community of social butterflies. It wasn't strange for her to be a vice president. They chatted like this for a long time. Even though Leo's questions were all over the place and not very deep, Lily answered each one seriously. There was a strange feeling of peaceful, quiet time passing. Half an hour later, Leo woke the drowsy Lily and prepared to walk her to her job. As they walked across the field, their shadows stretched long behind them. Leo's arm ached, and that was just from holding a fan for half an hour. This fool said she wasn't tired. Who was she kidding? Watching the girl walk beside him, Leo's feelings grew more and more complicated. He was about to say something when he saw Mia walking towards them, glaring at him. "What are you looking at?" Leo asked. "You finally decided to wake up, huh?" Mia rolled her eyes at him. Seeing the situation, she guessed where they were going. "You can walk her there. I'm heading back to the drama club." Then she shouted, "Remember to come back and do some work. Our Lily can't have fanned you for free. You have to pay it back." She was supposed to be taking a nap. Her words made Leo feel even more ashamed. He felt he needed a word more offensive than scumbag to describe himself. He, a grown man, felt his arm ache after fanning for just half an hour. He couldn't imagine how Lily had managed to keep it up. The fool didn't even know to stop. "When I sell her, is she going to thank me and help me count the money?" After dropping Lily off, Leo returned to the dorm with a cup of fruit tea. It was a gift from the manager of the hot pot restaurant where Lily worked. For some reason, the way the man had looked at him was very strange, like a father-in-law looking at his future son-in-law. Clearly, a hard-working and serious girl like Lily was very well liked. Leo walked slowly over to Jake, who was engrossed in a mobile game. Jake had already achieved a magnificent score of 0-8-2. The chat box was filled with friendly greetings for him. "Boss, are these teammates calling you an idiot?" Leo taunted, taking a sip of his tea. "They're cussing out snowy__wife. What does that have to do with me, Jake?" "You're something else. Leo, hand me that fruit knife. I'll cut a watermelon for you. Just bought it this afternoon." Damn, watermelon is still expensive this time of year. Just as Leo picked up the knife, the door slowly opened. Ryan Lee glanced at Leo, who was staring at him, knife in hand, and his back immediately pressed against the door. Seeing Leo smile and twirl the knife in his hand, Ryan pushed his glasses up with a trembling hand. Leo, I really didn't know. Who would have thought the dance club would invite Celeste to help? I only found out when you told me. Leo handed the knife, blade first, to Jake. Of course I believe you. Mainly, I don't want the other two roommates to get into a graduate program. Seeing the knife in Jake's hand, Ryan suddenly shouted, Boss! This bastard Leo was on a date with that flyer girl again, this afternoon. That night, Leo lay in bed with his laptop, watching a video of Celeste's performance from their freshman year. On stage, the girl was dressed beautifully, her movements graceful and elegant. With every fluid step, her long black hair flew behind her. Even though the other girls around her were also beautiful, their light was completely overshadowed by hers. She was the true star. From the moment she stepped on stage, all eyes were destined to be on her alone. And from that moment on, she became a celebrity at the university, her fame far surpassing what it had been in high school. During her final thank you speech, she thanked many people in the club, even Chloe, who had only been there to cheer her on. But she didn't mention him, the one who had worked tirelessly behind the scenes. He had worked himself to the bone, and hadn't even gotten a single word of thanks. The him who had smilingly recorded this video must never have imagined that all his efforts would amount to nothing. He had only been moved by his own devotion. He could have played opposite Batman. With a bitter laugh, he dragged the video to the trash can. Along with his memories and lingering feelings for the past, he deleted it, and then emptied the trash. Closing his laptop, Leo stared at the ceiling for a while, lost in thought. Buzz buzz. Leo picked up his phone and looked at the message. Lily, Mia said you're definitely coming back tomorrow. Is that true? Leo, depends on if you're going. He then watched the typing indicator for a long time. Lily then, can you come a little earlier in the morning? Leo blinked curiously. He decided to tease this naive girl, to scare her off so he could get some sleep. Leo, you want to see me that badly? This time, the typing indicator went on for a full 10 minutes. Leo's eyelids were fighting a losing battle. Just as he was about to fall asleep, his phone finally buzzed again. Lily, yes. It had taken the girl 10 minutes to type that single word. Leo stared at the message, rubbed his eyes, and the message was still there. In this city, there was one more person who wouldn't be sleeping tonight. Leo felt as if he had been bitten by a small, clueless white rabbit, and for a moment, he was completely stunned. At the end of the day, he was all offense and no defense. After all, he had spent the last few years chasing Celeste, had never actually been in a relationship, and had never received any positive reinforcement from her. How could he possibly withstand this kind of stimulation? What did this yes mean? Was she joking? She didn't seem like the type to joke around. Did someone else send it? That didn't seem right either. Lily was probably living in a rented apartment with her mother. It was even less likely that her account had been hacked. As the saying goes, no scammer would bother targeting someone with an anime profile picture. Thinking of this, Leo suddenly became curious about Lily's mother's situation. Though it was possible Lily wouldn't want to talk about it, and Leo had indeed avoided asking for fear of upsetting her. I should try to learn more about Lily when I get the chance. What a strange girl. The next day, Leo was up early. With dark circles under his eyes, he brushed his teeth, washed his face, snatched a bun from Jake, and was ready to go. You son of a... Jake, seeing his breakfast stolen, was about to start cursing, but then he looked up and saw the fully dressed Leo and froze. Although Leo wasn't like them, who often lounged around in just their boxers, seeing him dressed this early was a rare sight. Give me 2 more buns. I'm hungry, Leo mumbled. Get lost. My girlfriend gave these to me. If you're so capable, go find your own girlfriend. Jake looked at him as if he'd seen a ghost. Where are you going? To be a laborer for the drama club. I owe the vice president a favor from helping Ryan Lee yesterday, Leo said honestly, though it wasn't the whole truth. Are you actually interested in that girl you met at the gate? Jake continued the conversation from last night. In this regard, he really was like a mother hen. He hadn't been like this before, but since he started dating Chloe, it was like he had been assimilated. Leo swallowed the food in his mouth. Do I look that frivolous to you? But she is a really nice person. At least being with her is happier than before. Leo didn't finish the sentence. Just assume she won me over with a piece of fruit candy. With that, he opened the door and left. The weather was nice today, at least at this time of day, not too hot and not too cold. The clouds were high in the sky, and the air was fresh. To be up at 2 days in a row. As a university student, I have truly fallen. Leo thought to himself as he quickly arrived at the drama club's practice location. He was relieved to find that he had arrived before Lily. After all, she wanted to see me early, so I shouldn't make her wait for me. Wow, your panda eyes are really obvious. Mia, who was wearing normal clothes today, looking like a high school student, commented. Of course, this was also related to her being a flat-chested princess. Leo glanced at her, sitting leisurely in a chair, and felt an inexplicable sense of irritation. Madam Vice President, there's a cockroach on your chair. Ah. Mia shot up from her seat, nearly launching into a series of frantic movements. Leo calmly pulled the chair over and sat down comfortably. You Mia was about to curse him out, but then someone called her, and she swallowed her anger. No, if I kill him, Lily will be sad. Watching the girls retreating back, Leo felt even more comfortable. A stolen share is always more comfortable. Why would I want my own when someone else's is so much better? He had come today with the intention of being a laborer, but that didn't mean he wanted to stand while waiting for Lily. Another 15 minutes passed, and Lily still hadn't arrived. This made Leo curious. Although she didn't live on campus, she was the one who had said she wanted to come early. Just as he was starting to suspect he had been played, he saw a slender girl walking slowly towards them in the distance, carrying a lunchbox. She swayed like a tired, clumsy penguin. Upon spotting Leo, Lily quickened her pace. Finally, she stood in front of him and handed him the lunchbox. With her head down, she said, I made you some kanji. Do you want to try it? The girl's voice was barely a whisper, and her hands were restlessly fidgeting. She was like a primary school student who had just handed in her homework, worried about making a mistake, worried about being criticized. Lily's long hair was down, and even without seeing her eyes clearly, from up close, you could see her delicate, fair face and gentle expression. She had a certain classical charm, a different kind of beauty compared to when she had her hair in a practical low ponytail for work. She would probably look amazing in traditional clothing. Leo was stunned for a moment, but he still subconsciously took the lunchbox. He blinked, his voice soft as he asked, Why did you make me kanji? Then, noticing the dark circles under her eyes, his pupils contracted sharply. Seeing that Leo didn't react with the disgust she had anticipated, Lily breathed a sigh of relief. After a moment, she said slowly, Your stomach is weak, so you probably don't like eating breakfast. So I made you some kanji. She lowered her head even further. If you don't like it, it's fine. If you do, I can bring you some whenever I have time. It's not much trouble. This was, of course, a lie. Her dark circles were from staying up late to massage her mother's legs, and then waking up early to make kanji for Leo. To make it taste better, she had simmered it over a low flame for a long time. Feeling that plain white kanji was too plain, she had run out at the crack of dawn to find an early opening supermarket, bought the necessary vegetables and lean meat, and made kanji with preserved egg and pork. Leo looked at Lily's matching dark circles and thought, I don't believe you for a second. But he, a grown man, was truly on the verge of breaking down. In his 21 years of life, the only people who had ever woken up early to make him kanji were his mother, and now, Lily. This fool had even taken his joke seriously. And then she must have gotten up at the crack of dawn. As for whether she really wanted to see him, Leo no longer had the mind to think about it. In the face of her dark circles, and this kanji, the answer to that question was no longer important. Leo had never been able to stand the taste of preserved eggs. He had even thrown up from it as a child. But this time, he drank it as if his life depended on it. He deliberately took large gulps, making it look like he was enjoying it immensely. Mainly, he was actually a little hungry. See that, Jake? Can your girlfriend do that? Suddenly, Leo was a little confused. What's going on? Preserved eggs don't seem so bad anymore. Seeing Leo wolfing it down, the last stone in Lily's heart finally fell. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and mentally planned to make more for him since he seemed to like it. Because of her father, she hated stomach problems, so she didn't want anything to happen to Leo's stomach. If Leo was too lazy to eat breakfast, she would just have to work a little harder. After all, they were good friends. You didn't sleep well? Lily asked tentatively. Take a guess whose fault that is, Leo said, carefully closing the lid of the lunchbox and letting out a lazy yawn. The girl fell silent, feeling that Leo was hinting at something. To be honest, after she sent that yes last night, she had wanted to die. She had agonized over whether to retract it, but then worried that Leo had already seen it and retracting it would make things even more awkward. After hesitating a little longer, she felt even more certain that he had probably seen it, which made her even more afraid to retract it. Why did I send that on an impulse? In the end, it was because Leo had to ask if she wanted to see him that badly. Lily's eyelids fluttered, and the scene in front of her became misty. Can I go live on Mars? Why does today's Lily have to be responsible for what yesterday's Lily did? Lily, Leo said her name. The girl looked up, a little confused. Thank you. After thinking for a long time, Leo couldn't come up with anything better to say. But it didn't matter. No matter how flowery his words were, a fool who didn't even get the joke about his weak stomach probably wouldn't understand them anyway. Speaking of which, he hadn't been wrong about one thing yesterday. Being a freeloader was great. Mum. Lily's voice was soft and sweet, and for once, cheerful. All her sleepiness and fatigue vanished with that single thank you. On her way here, Lily had been on the verge of giving up countless times. She had imagined countless possibilities. Leo politely refusing, or saying he didn't like it, or even finding her strange and overbearing. She had all sorts of wild guesses, but she also felt that Leo was a gentle person, so it was more likely that he would force himself to drink it. Even though that would save her from embarrassment, she didn't want him to force himself. Luckily, Leo seemed to genuinely like it. Leo gulped down a few large mouthfuls of water, finally washing the taste of preserved egg from his mouth. He stretched contentedly, his gaze fixed on the girl in front of him. His expression was blank, but his eyes were soft. Lily gathered her courage and looked back at him, their gazes meeting for a split second. Then, as if fleeing, the girl quickly averted her eyes. They both tacitly avoided mentioning the "you want to see me that badly" comment. Why? Why are you staring at me? After a moment, the girl couldn't take it anymore and asked bashfully, her face turned away and her head bowed. Don't move, Leo said, rubbing his forehead, as if deep in thought. Huh? I said don't move. Oh, Lily was confused, but she obediently stood in front of Leo, her left arm hanging by her side, her right hand clutching her left arm. The girl's face was flushed, and her white t-shirt was pulled taut by her arm, making the curve of her chest eye-catchingly prominent. Anyone who didn't know better would think Leo was bullying an innocent girl. Lily was blushing furiously, her earlobes burning hot. Her clear, bright eyes were welling up with tears, looking as if she were about to cry. What are you doing? Her heart fluttered nervously, and she sounded like a whimpering kitten, her voice thick with tears. Leo was both amused and exasperated by her reaction. He once again fought back the urge to tease her and said, half-jokingly, I'm thinking of how to repay you. He felt that Lily was so different from other girls. She had almost no life of her own, no hobbies of her own. Though they hadn't known each other for long, he had never seen her truly smile. This naive girl instinctively suppressed her emotions, her insecurity running deep. What should I do? Leo felt that as her good friend, he should do something, if only for that piece of candy and this breakfast. But he had no idea where to start. Huh? Why do you have to repay me? Lily suspected she was still half asleep. She felt like she hadn't been on the same wavelength as him all day. Why do you only say huh and oh? Leo chuckled. Because I want to be very, very good friends with you. So, the effort and reward between us should be equal. He then looked off into the distance and added thoughtfully, that's how it lasts. Lily bit her lip shyly and looked at the rising sun, then checked the time on her phone. She sneaked another peek at the handsome, gentle boy in front of her, then, satisfied, picked up the lunchbox and gave him a little wave. I'm going now. Where are you going? Leo asked curiously, his tone filled with confusion. So you came all this way just to bring me breakfast? To hand out flyers. Lily held up a slender, fair index finger, looking quite proud. I don't have class today, so I can earn over 100 yuan more. I can make my mom some pork ribs for dinner when I get off work. Leo's first instinct was to offer to help, but he quickly dismissed the idea. Lily needed help, but not this kind of imposed kindness. She didn't need charity. That would only make this insecure girl feel even more embarrassed. You have something to do today? Then why did you say you were coming last night? I thought you were coming to help, Leo said with a sigh, feeling a little disappointed. He felt like he had been tricked by Mia. Utterly tricked. Did Mia really not use Lily as bait? Leo couldn't believe he had fallen for it. Since Lily was leaving for her part-time job, and he had promised to help, he couldn't very well just leave. His plan to get to know Lily better seemed to be ruined, but Leo wasn't in a hurry. Are you coming back after you're done? Leo asked on an impulse. I'll be back. Lily replied instantly, without thinking. Only after she said it did she quickly calculate if she would have time. Confirming that she would, she nodded forcefully again. Okay, I'll wait for you, Leo said with a light laugh. After watching the girl disappear, he walked over to the drama club members with a huff. Seeing Mia, who had just finished reviewing the script, about to sit down, he quietly pulled the chair away. That hurts. Lily walked towards the bus stop, feeling the breeze on her cheeks. After the Qingming festival, the weather had gotten warmer. The sun was gentle, and willow catkins floated in the air like falling snow. The students around her were all walking in groups, laughing and chatting about the latest gossip or games. The girls passing by were all dressed up, radiating youthful energy. Only she was out of place. Lily tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear, took out her phone, and wiped the screen, looking at her reflection. I really can't compare to that girl I saw in the cafeteria. Even if our hairstyles and looks were similar, my timid gaze and long bangs would drag my score down so much. After a moment, the girl sighed quietly and tied her hair back into a ponytail. After all, she was going to work. Long hair would be inconvenient and hot. Lily couldn't figure out why she had even bothered to wear her hair down. It was so strange. In the evening, as dusk settled, Leo watched the sun turn a fiery red on the horizon and let out a lazy yawn. The lights on the track field came on. There were no more runners, only couples holding hands and strolling. The drama club members were still passionately reciting their lines. Their performance seemed to be inspired by the Age of Awakening. The play they were performing was about the awakening and transformation of the students of this university during that era. Through the perspective of a few students, it showed the shift in thinking during that period, from initial ignorance to following in the footsteps of the revolutionary martyrs. Leo had a deep interest in history, and when he wasn't needed as a laborer, he could actually discuss and revise the script with the scriptwriter. But his knowledge of modern history wasn't as detailed, because it was just too painful to read. He could read about earlier history with a sense of detachment, but modern history often brought tears to his eyes. Wow, how do you know everything? The boy with glasses asked. looking at Leo with astonishment. He was more and more satisfied with the revised script. He couldn't figure out where the vice president had found such an amazing upperclassman, who was like a doorman, able to help with anything. Leo's knowledge of history was so precise he could even recall the year, while most of his own knowledge had already been returned to his high school history teacher. All he knew now was that he could eat 3 bowls of rice in one sitting. When you have free time, you learn a little bit of everything. Whether there's a date on the tree or not, you won't lose anything by giving it a shake, Leo said, shrugging as he picked up the sound system and followed the main group to put things away. Just then, a girl, struggling with a heavy load, wobbled up beside him. It was Lily.